And Chapter 1. For a long time it always started with a beautiful woman at the door, sometimes in the middle of the night. That had ended. Good things do. I wasn't in that racket anymore. There was only one beautiful woman for me. She was on my side of the door already. Tinny Tate. Tinny had wreaked all sorts of changes in my life. Tinny had the word out. Garrett, that most marvelous specimen of former Marine, was no longer one of Tunfair's serious players, however you cared to define that term. Mama Garrett's boy was now devoutly monogamous. He reserved his vast professional acumen for the benefit of the Weider brewing empire, and more importantly, for that of the amalgamated manufacturing combine. The man hadn't hit the mean streets in a rat's age, which was pleasing to many, and unpopular with a much smaller crowd. Bottom feeders and parasites really liked the new Garrett. He was out of their lives. The reverse was true for workmen at the breweries and amalgamated. Garrett had this habit of turning up just when some underpaid and underappreciated genius was about to enhance his income by reassigning ownership of company property. My wondrous new life. Chapter 2. It did begin with a beautiful woman in the middle of the night, a stunning redhead, bereft of any perspective other than her own. She gouged me in the ribs with a specially sharpened fingernail.
Wake up, Malsquando.
Again? What? Are you trying to set a new record?
We'll work on that tomorrow night. We have another problem now. There's somebody downstairs.
We lived in two-story quarters we had carved out of a little used part of the amalgamated manufactory annex. Something rattled down below, followed by a vague, exasperated curse. I was awake now, my head filling with subjects I might offer for discussion once we got out of whatever this was. Like maybe the fact that this situation could not have come up had we made our nest at my house. I was like liquid getting out of bed, silently flowing, not even a gurgle. I armed myself with an oaken head knocker that no amount of fussing or whining had compelled me to divorce. Just in time, the bedroom door opened with a faint creak. I was behind it, wound up. The villain entering carried a damped-down lantern that cast just enough light for someone whose night vision had fully adapted. It revealed Tinny lying there mostly uncovered and wearing nothing, apparently asleep. An impressive sight, I've got to admit. Lucky me, I'd seen it enough not to be distracted. Much. There's something wrong here, Butch. The whisperer leaned in just far enough to offer the back of his mostly bald head. I seized the day, whacked that mole, down he went. I spun around the edge of the door to stare down the length of 12 pounds of razor-edged steel. I couldn't imagine anybody having forged a sword that big. The eyes behind that monster did not belong to somebody in a merciful mood, nor even somebody truly sane. Tinny uncovered the goods, arrogantly showing off how lucky Garrett was. The eyes that knew no mercy did recognize those marvels when they saw them. Clang! That blade brushed aside. Thump! A solid whack to the temple. Half a minute to make sure the villains didn't come back on us. Then, trollop!
How's your health, big boy?
She had some clothes on now. She had become the promise, not the literal truth. I had him.
Sure you did. Just a little insurance.
Something to tell the grandkids about.
Garrett, what the hell is going on? Are you into something? You promised. What are you into?
Nothing. When would I have the chance? That was one of the costs of our monogamy. I had no life that didn't include Tinny, nor should I want one as she interpreted monogamy. Tinny is a natural-born redhead, long on emotion and not so long on reason. Yet she did recall that our arrangement had not left me time to get involved in the sort of adventures I used to enjoy.
I'm not sure I believe you, but I'll go out on a limb and take your word.
Bless you. I just had a marvelous idea. How about, instead of you sparking arguments by letting your imagination run wild, we ask our guests what brings them here? Tinny grunted. She can be reasonable. It just doesn't happen all that often. Chapter 3. Neither nocturnal adventurer wanted to share. Neither said a word. Tinny set limits to how vigorously I could ask questions. She wouldn't let me get loud or messy. She could be stubborn about stuff like that. This time, she insisted on drafting a night shift nephew to run down the Alcar to collect a squad of Tunfair's self-proclaimed fine. They responded to the Tate name. If the boy had used mine, the tin whistles might have taken weeks. The Tates have friends in that community of people who think law and order are good for commerce. They have the kind of money that rears up on its hind legs and howls for immediate attention. The Red Tops nearly beat themselves to the AMC annex where Tinny had us keeping house. That was her idea of a compromise. She did not want to live in my house. I was dead set against being pulled in and converted into another drone in the Tate family hive. This would not have happened on Macunado Street, I observed. They wouldn't have gotten through the door unless Old Bones wanted to play with them, and we'd know what it was all about already. They say women change once they get their talons in and locked. I wouldn't presume to enter an opinion, but I am willing to admit that spending time at my place, even with the dead man wide awake, had been no problem for Tinny back when we were just real good friends. She ignored me. She was working herself up to make a deal with the minions of the law. She ignored our captives, too. Those two would have a tale to tell their grandkids. If they got lucky, a miracle would happen, lightning would strike, and they would evade the labor gang that was their certain fate at the moment. A tin whistle named Scythe led the Red Tops. Scythe was a little too appreciative of a certain redhead. Not a friend, by any means. Most lawmen don't even trust each other. But he was decent and reasonable, outside his weakness for ginger.
I don't understand, Miss Tate. You're still associating with this known antisocial type?
He's like a wart, hard to get rid of, and he does have entertainment value. For now, though, I'd be ever so grateful if you could take these two men somewhere and ask them why they interrupted my rest.
Scythe made an unhappy noise. He considered the villains. They, only now, were getting a grasp on the bleakness of their prospects. They hadn't struck me as drunk. Maybe they smoked something before they got what seemed like a good idea at the time. They had to be brothers. The older one muttered, "We're screwed." The only thing either had said yet. They hadn't tried to talk their way out using ridiculous logic and excuses, which is what these morons usually do.
Not necessarily true, my friend. As a civil guard officer, I'm permitted a certain amount of discretion. You could walk away from this with nothing but your bruises. If you're the stubborn sort, though, it's a safe bet you'll spend time in the Bledsoe, healing up so you can put in a few years helping reclaim the Little Dismal Swamp.
Shit, the younger one opined without heat. Just kill us now.
There ain't no easy way out, boys. You done a bad thing. What you got to decide now is, how do you want to pay your debt to society?
Scythe was having fun. His question was not meant to be answered. Neither villain tried. Both were, now, lost souls wandering a desert of despair.
They could probably get some cooperation points if they came clean right now, couldn't they, Senior Lieutenant?
I took a closer look at Scythe. Sure enough, he was sporting Senior Lieutenant's pips. He was bounding up the law and order ladder. The man had a knack for something besides mooning after redheads. He could get villains to keep him happy by confiding in him, urged along by his implying that he could provide something they wanted badly, a way out.
Gentlemen, you have to give me something. I know you aren't stupid.
Which was a bald-faced lie.
You know how the system works. You'll go to the Alcar because I can't not take you in. We have to see if you're on the wanted book for something ugly. If you have no majors there, you could walk out under your own power. In chains, headed for the swamp. You know we do let folks go to encourage the rest of you to cooperate. So far here, all we've got is a jimmied lock and some folks who aren't happy about getting waked up in the middle of the night. So why not tell me? What's the story?
The elder brother thought he'd give cooperation a chance. Condemnation to the Little Dismal Swamp project amounted to a death sentence. Though some prisoners might complete their sentences someday. None have yet, but the project isn't all that old. We were supposed to catch the woman and take her someplace. The guy wasn't supposed to be here. If he was, we was supposed to bop him on the head and get out. With her. That sparked interest all round. None of us expected Tinny to be a target. Scythe can be blisteringly obvious.
Why?
Shrug. We didn't get paid to ask questions.
You did get paid?
Tin Whistles looked at me like I knew what this was all about. Talk to him, I grumbled. He's the one with the answers. Here was one now, 40%. The balance on delivery.
Let me get this straight.
Scythe was having trouble getting his mind around something.
You were hired to kidnap Miss Tate?
Ain't that what I just confessed? Scythe took no offense, nor did he argue, however senseless the villain's statement.
You did. Yes, who might be so starved for Miss Tate's company that he or she would enlist your assistance in arranging a date?
Both bad boys frowned and wrestled with that. The younger one worked it out. Jimmy Two Steps hired us. I gave Tinny a dirty look. I was so out of touch I didn't know who Jimmy Two Steps was. Then me and the minions of the law exchanged eyebrow lifts. They didn't know Jimmy either.
I don't know anybody named Jimmy.
Mysteries. We got mysteries. We got off-the-wall mysteries. It was the way things started. There was a smoldering hot tie underfoot. But Tinny? It was usually a personable wench from the grass's greener side. I told myself, this isn't something getting started. This is just random. But even clicking my heels didn't convince me.
I don't know anybody named Jimmy.
Neither did Tinny, who said, mysteries. We got mysteries. We got off-the-wall mysteries.
It was the way things started. There was a smoldering hot tie underfoot. But Tinny? It was usually a personable wench from the grass's greener side.
I told myself, this isn't something getting started. This is just random. But even clicking my heels didn't convince me. Chapter 4. After turning up Jimmy Two Steps, the brothers gave us nothing more. A lot of clever questioning went to waste. I told Scythe, take these guys over to your shop. Tomorrow I'll check with my old contacts and see if somebody doesn't know where to find Two Stepses. Tinny blistered me with a look, because she was part of the subtext of what I'd said. I didn't feel the heat. Once the brothers dropped the name, they stayed busy whining about how they knew Jimmy only from drinking with him at a place called Raisin's Bookshop. I remembered Raisin's Bookshop. It was the lowest of low-life bars, the kind of place where our night visitors would hang out. Nobody knew why it was called the bookshop. If somebody named Raisin was ever connected with it, that was so long ago nobody remembered that, either.
Garrett, stick to your job as a security specialist. You try to pick up where you left off, you'll find out how much you don't got it anymore. Miss Tate? He's in your custody. Keep reminding him that Tunfair's civil guard handles these things these days.
I will.
I had no doubt that she would often, and strongly. My natural-born cynicism failed me. The tin whistles had been amazingly effective, lately. I took the lieutenant at his word, thinking the guard would wrap the mess in a day or two. All right, do your job. Just don't leave us twisting in the wind. Let us know why these cretins were after Tinny, in case we need to be ready to entertain another clutch of numbskulls. Tinny gave poor Cy the look that made him forget he'd been happily married for years to a perfectly wonderful, but ordinary woman.
I'll do that for sure.
Tinny turned on the heat in the distractions department as soon as I got back from making sure our guests had actually left the premises.
Vance, I know what you're going to say, darling.
Which would be why a roasting holiday goose is usually better dressed than you are right now.
I can't fool you for a minute, can I?
No, but she could do a damned good job of diverting me. After which, to be contrary, I didn't have anything to say. I lay there and brooded till I woke up in the middle of the next morning. Chapter 5, I asked. You recall last night? Tinny was trying to make breakfast, trying hard. She wanted to do good. She had nothing else left in her arsenal of distraction. Sadly, she's much better at looking good than at cooking good.
Yep, I remember.
Ha! Nervous. Maybe even feeling a little guilty, though the guard's inquisitors wouldn't get her to admit that.
The sausages aren't as bad as they look, and the toast will be fine if you scrape it a little with your knife.
Kip Prose has a thing for making perfect toast. I let it go, though. She had used one of the prototypes to burn this toast.
I just wanted a normal life.
I said nothing. Let her have the argument with herself. Of course, silence is my best tactic in this sort of situation, 4 times out of 5. I let her ramble where she liked. She ran down. She glared at me. Then she got her second wind.
God's damn it, Garrett. I know what you're thinking. It wasn't you that those thugs came for, it was me.
Admitting that cost her. Getting any Tate to admit being wrong about anything, even obliquely, is more rare than hen's teeth, and certainly more precious. Having one fess up without provocation, voluntarily, is rare beyond compare. I soldiered on, keeping my big damned mouth shut, a skill I'm still having trouble mastering. Had I done so years ago, I could have saved myself a lot of hard knocks.
All right, you're right. It never would have happened if I hadn't insisted that we live up here. The dead man would have wrapped those idiots up before they damaged the doors.
They might not have come at all. Hardly anybody is stupid enough to take a chance with the dead man anymore. They would have caught Tinny somewhere else. They would have made her disappear quietly. Which they should have done anyway. Why try for her here, at night, when there was such a damn good chance that I would get involved? They wanted me involved. Had to. Or whoever sent them did. Ha! Butch and his brother hadn't been well briefed on what to expect before they set off to capture the savage redhead. Maybe Jimmy Two-Steps hadn't had a clue either. That is the way I would have worked it if I was in the villain trade. I'd make Jimmy a cutout. I put some toast and sausage down, and did not gag. I took a relaxing breath, announced, I'm going to visit Singe and the dead man's. Tinny stopped rattling pots. Singe won't know Two-Steps, but her brother might.
You told Lieutenant Scythe that you would let it alone.
The dead man might have a perspective that I overlooked.
You promised.
I'll stop by Morley's place and see what he thinks too. Morley Dotes is my best friend.
Garrett, you aren't.
He should be able to get word out that it won't be healthy to mess with my #1 girl. Tinny chomped some air. That made it all about her. Further argument now would make her look petty. Not a failing she has concerned herself with much in the past. Nobody is likely to come after you here, now. She has a raft of draft-age male relatives. 2 were outside as we spoke, illegally armed and ready for war. Stick to business and you'll be fine. No bad guy will ever make it as far in as the financials office. I wasn't seeing the full picture. Tinny way far more than normally insecure. And every word out of my mouth was one she didn't want to hear, including, You are supposed to be getting the book straightened out today, aren't you? One of the draft-age cousins, Artifice, redder in the head than Tinny, walked in without a knock or an invitation. There's somebody out here wants to see you, Garrett. He seemed nervous. He evaded Tinny's basilisk stare. I made the head knocker at home in my hand. Duty calls, my love. My love sent me off with the kind of language used by men in combat, then decided to come along and see what was what. She began showing fierce verbal skills once we stepped outside. My sweetie isn't 100% contrary. There are times when reason will take hold, times when she will accept a valid argument without herself arguing for the sake of being difficult. This was not going to be one of those. For half a minute she was incapable of doing anything but sputter vile accusations. Chapter 6. A big black coach sat 20 feet from our door, just up Factory Slide, the broad street running along the northeast face of the amalgamated manufactory and the annex that had been thrown up during the war with Venegata. Factory Slide saw very little traffic not involved with amalgamated. This coach had nothing to do with the manufactory. There was only one coach like it. It belonged to an acquaintance. I hadn't seen her in a long time. I didn't want to see her now, especially not when Tinny would know I was seeing her. Belinda Contague, Empress of Organized Crime, deadly sociopath, one-time girlfriend, briefly, and theoretical current friend, owned that coach. And was the kind of friend you might wish you didn't have, because they can complicate your life to no end. 2 armed men perched atop the black behemoth, behind a 6-horse team. A brace of armed horsemen preceded it. 4 more waited behind. Not a one looked pleased to see Mama Garrett's #1 son. Though she had a few quiet shares in Amalgamated, Belinda was not here on business. The beautiful madwoman herself opened the near side door.
Hop in, Garrett. I'll give you a ride. I need to borrow him for a while, Tinny. I won't keep him longer than I have to.
Tinny outdid herself. For a moment I was scared there would be a skirmish between Belinda's thugs and the draft-age cousins. That would not go well for the cousins, but would be bad news for the thugs in the long run. The Tates have a lot of pull. But my honey was not as far out of control as she put on, which was often the case. She was fond of putting on the drama. This scene, though, could lead to some really unhappy reviews. Belinda seized the day.
Someone tried to kill Morley Dotes. He's hurt bad. He may not make it. I need Garrett to help look out for him.
That fired Tinny up all over again.
Who is going to look out for me? It's his responsibility to look out for me. Garrett, I want a doll.
She went on and on. I asked Belinda, is he really that bad hurt?
Yes, I really don't think he'll make it.
She surprised me by choking up a little as she said that.
Worse, I think there's a better than even chance that somebody might try to make sure that he doesn't.
It could be argued that the outfit was capable of handling that without me. But if Morley was on his way out, I had no choice. He was my best friend. I had to be there. I went back to Tinny, took hold of her shoulders. You're going to be all right. This is something I have to do, for my friend. My attempts to make her understand didn't have much success. She wasn't going to let that happen. She was mad and she was scared, and she was thoroughly accustomed to being the Tate princess who got whatever she wanted whenever she wanted it, even from me. She was the ruling goddess in her own little universe. Right now, because she was unhappy, the wants or needs of others had no meaning. This was not the first time I had seen her this way. Talking wasn't going to do any good. Only time would have any effect. And she couldn't get any more angry. I'll be back as soon as I can, darling. Midge, take good care of her. The cousin who had not come inside nodded. Sweat fell from his forehead. He gave up a huge sigh of relief, suddenly sure that he would not have to become the first casualty in a war so small it wouldn't be noticed while it was going on. I tried to kiss Tinny. She wouldn't have it. I backed away. I do love you, but you can't. She managed to keep from saying something really awful. I got in. The coach rolled before I settled the back of my lap on the plush opposite Belinda. Time had been kind. She was as striking as ever. Her best feature was her long, glossy black hair. It accentuated her pallor and the red she used to paint her lips. But today her hair was unkempt, stringy, in need of washing. Her complexion had gained a sickly yellow-green cast, though maybe that was the light. She did not wear any of her usual makeup, crafted to create a vampire look. And she had given little attention to her clothing. I guess she hadn't changed in days. She had that air. Being an accomplished observer, I sensed that she was deeply upset. Talk to me.
Somebody took a run at Morley Dotes. You said.
Morley had been my best friend for so long that I couldn't recall when he hadn't been. Well, not before the war, but almost forever. I hadn't seen much of him lately. Tinny didn't approve. Her disapproval was not ethnic or social, but intellectual. Morley Dotes had the capacity to distract her special guy from what she wanted him focused on, Tinny Tate. I appreciated the courtesy of being informed, but wondered why Belinda would involve herself in Morley's affairs. Maybe because she was the silent money behind his very successful restaurant enterprises. I'll tell you what I know. 3 nights ago, he staggered into one of our knock shops on the edge of Elftown. He was full of holes, but not so full of blood. The backstairs crew was turning out his pockets when somebody recognized him and decided to keep him alive till they tracked me down. I went there the night before last. He was 6 inches short of dying. I waited around, but he never came to. What was he doing up there? And why had she gone running to a cat house when she heard? Rhetorical question. Thinking out loud. I have no idea what he was up to these days. We don't get together much anymore.
I understand. Red hair.
I doubted that she did. She had no one special in her life. She couldn't possibly know, my God. Could it be? It couldn't be. Morley's first law is, never get involved with a woman crazier than you are. But there it was, between the lines. Something was going on between the Queen of Darkness and my best pal. What do you need from me?
Stay with him. Make sure nobody helps him spring any more leaks. When he comes around, find out what we need to know.
Which meant, find out who to hurt. All right. She was saying plenty without stating it direct. There were ears up top and she wasn't in a trusting mood. She counted on our shared experiences to convey what she wanted me to know. For example, that she couldn't count on her own people to protect a boyfriend they didn't approve. But I have my own problem. I told her about my visit from Butch and his brother.
Tit for tat. I'll look out for Tinny. Any way I could get my hands on those two?
What for?
To ask if there's a connection.
Stranger connections have turned up in my life. They're inside the Alcar. You could ask General Block, but I don't think he'd cooperate. Go after Jimmy Two Steps.
2 steps?
That's the name they gave up. You know it?
I don't. But there are too many of them to keep track. Tunfair is like a dead dog and they're like flies.
There was mention of Raisin's bookshop. Belinda frowned. In that light, doing that, she looked much older.
A bookstore?
Carefully, I said, think back to when we met. That was one of the places. She had been hard at work committing slow suicide in the worst dives Tunfair boasts. The bookshop was one where I interfered with her self-destruction.
I must have been all the way to the bottom. I don't remember it at all.
It's bad news on wheels.
Not part of the family enterprise?
It wasn't then. I doubt there's been any reason for that to change. She thumped the wood behind her head.
It's a place to start. Marcus?
A panel slid aside. A guard showed his face. Ma'am?
How much longer?
A minute? 2, tops.
Excellent. Of me?
She asked.
Do you know a place called Fire and Ice on the north side?
No. I've been weaned off any such useful knowledge.
You'll find it. Take the Grand Concourse north. Stay with it after it turns into an ordinary street. When you get close to Elftown, ask. Somebody will know it. That's where Morley is. I don't want to move him till he can do it under his own power.
I'm going there because? He was my pal. I ought to be all over this. But I wasn't sure I was getting the whole truth. Belinda understood.
I'm not working you, Garrett. You take care of Morley. I'll take care of Tinny and her family if it's a trade dispute.
That hadn't occurred to me. There were magnates capable of such shady tactics.
We're here. You need anything up there, you tell them. They'll handle it. I'll see you as soon as I can.
The coach stopped. Before I could protest her presumption, she opened the door and gave me a shove. Belinda is one of those people whose expectations become unspoken commands. Chapter 7. I turned an ankle, not badly, when I landed on the cobblestones of Macunado Street in front of my old house. It was still my place. I just didn't live there anymore and had not been around to visit for a while. The place had gotten a facelift, paint, and some tuck pointing. The cracked window pane on the second floor had been replaced. There were new curtains up there, and there were planters on the front stoop with unstolen flowers in them. The siege of law and order had become quite epic. I stood there considering, wrestling a dread that when I went inside I would be entering a foreign country. I climbed the steps. I didn't feel the dead man. I dug in my pocket for a key I wasn't carrying, then knocked my personal "I'm not here" at knife point knock. I waited. I examined the brickwork to the right of the doorframe. The hole into the voids inside the wall had been sealed with mortar and a chip of brick, which explained why, on a fine warm day, I didn't have pixies swarming around me. I'd have to get the story there. Melandi Kadare and her mob had been handy friends, if a little rowdy and unpredictable. The door opened. The lady of the house stepped aside so I could enter. Pular Singe had matured. She had put on a few pounds and was both better and more carefully dressed. I had nothing ready to say.
How's business? There has been a slowdown. That is Director Railway's fault. But we get by. Dean is making fresh tea. Come into the office.
Her office was what we had once called the small front room, in the front of the house on the right side of the central hallway. It hadn't been used much before Singe cleaned it up and made it our bureaucratic headquarters. What happened to the pixies?
Melondi Kadare died.
They don't live long, but she wasn't that old.
She got run over by an ox cart. She was drunk. She flew into something, bonked her head, fell down in the street. The wheel got her before anyone could drag her away. Afterward, the colony moved. I will find out where if it matters.
It doesn't. Not right now. I settled into a chair. She had gotten some comfortable furniture in. I considered her. Pular Singe was a rat girl, a touch over 5 feet tall when she stood as upright as she could. Her sort, there are several species of rat people, were created by experimenting sorcerers several hundred years ago. The majority aren't very bright. They subsist at the lowest social level, doing the meanest jobs. Singe is a freak among freaks. She's a freak because she's a genius, not just among her own kind. She's brighter and more clever than most humans, too, so a freak. She scares people. Sometimes she scares me. I adopted her, more or less, while working with her, when I realized that a dramatically fine mind would go to waste if she remained in the paws of the villainous ratmen exploiting her then. She'd been an early adolescent at the time. Dean Creech, ancient live-in cook and housekeeper, arrived with a tray bearing tea, cups, and sandwiches. He had been generous constructing the latter.
You're looking fit.
More exercise and less beer. It's hell. He headed back to the kitchen. I noted he's moving slower.
We all are. What's the trouble?
Singe knew I wouldn't be home if there wasn't something that stirred her resentment. She didn't really like me walking in like I owned the place now that she was running it. But, more deeply, she did not like Tinny telling me who my friends were and when I could see them. I explained what had happened to me and what Belinda said had happened to Morley.
Is there a connection?
I shrugged. Not logically.
But you have no faith in the power of coincidence.
True. That hadn't occurred to me. I did see her reasoning. There couldn't be a safer place to stash him.
First thing we will need to do is get Morley moved in here.
Belinda says he's too badly hurt to move.
You will be with him. You will know when he can take it.
I nodded.
I am considering knocking out the wall between this room and your old office. Any objections?
Only emotionally. There are a few thousand memories haunting that room. It was the smallest in the house. I used to describe it as a broom closet with delusions.
We will be too busy to have workmen in, anyway. The dead man is asleep, if you were hoping to consult him.
I figured. He hasn't been harassing me. I surveyed some shelving she'd had installed. That's a lot of books.
Some days I do not have much else to do. The only call for trackers anymore comes from the guard. They have grown so effective with their law and order scam that they have people turning themselves in after they have reflected on whatever seemed like a good idea after a half-dozen pints. The penalties are less painful. I do some bookkeeping for humility. I manage his investments. And yours. I study. And that is it.
I had investments? How come I didn't know about that? Because I would have spent the money instead of investing it. Another female doing my thinking for me.
You are doing well with your investments, especially amalgamated.
I had a small percentage but never considered it an investment. I hadn't put money in, just me.
Especially, but I put some of your cash into other things. You will continue to have an income stream if amalgamated comes apart.
I wasn't paying attention. I mostly saw a rat girl when I was with her. I didn't look for signs that she might be making sure I'd be all right if Tinny, amalgamated, and I had a falling out. I would get it later, though. I see. We had begun talking about stuff that didn't require us to confess how much we missed each other. Dean came back. He brought his own tea and cookies. He took an empty chair.
Are you back, Mr. Garrett?
Chapter 8. I wandered around the house, cataloging changes and remembering some whens. The changes consisted of paint, new wall finishes, and new furniture. I lugged a big mug of beer. There was a supply. I had thought there would be. Singe was a fan. You haven't been bringing guests in?
No one but my brother, some workmen, and the dead man's students. Humility only comes on business since I stopped his beer privileges.
Her brother, real name Pound Humility but known on the street as John Stretch, was chieftain of the biggest ratman gang in the city. He was of a different litter, so they shared only the same mother. But their relationship was surprisingly tight.
He just could not help being a rat. He took advantage. Garrett.
Don't piss him off. He's a handy guy to know. I'm sorry. I can't help fussing.
And yet you resent it so much when people do it to you.
I shrugged. Being consistent is a sign of a narrow mind. That was the moment we first stepped into the chill of the dead man's room. One small candle burned in a sconce outside the door. It didn't cost much light when I took it in. It wasn't there for that. It was meant to fire lamps when his nibs had people in who needed the comfort of the light. I raised the candle high. The dead man was right where I'd left him, where he had been since I bought the house, seated in a massive wooden chair, looking like a badly rendered idol featuring an anthropomorphic elephant god. I said, "Cold in here.
Yes.
Really cold in here."
Kip Prose designed the suite. It does not cost that much. It will make sure he is with us for a lot longer.
Kip Prose. Of course. He's into sorcery now too?
No. He could not make a rock fall down if he had to use magic. He can come up with mathematical models to make spells work more efficiently, though.
The lost contractions had dropped out of her speech. She was talking slower. She had begun to show a little of the Ratman lisping accent. She was nervous. How much is the cold costing?
Less than you might think. It is an investment in our future. We can keep food fresh in here, too.
I do fuss about money. Someone has to make people think a little before they empty my pockets. I was the despair of Dean and the dead man, and of Singe after she helped herself to a place in my life, because I am disinclined to work any harder than necessary, to avoid ending up ranting on the steps of the chancellery, in hopes somebody will be amused enough to toss a coin into my tips box. I heard harsh talk about poorhouses as those fine business minds missed the fact that the poorhouses were shutting down. Without a war, there was no need for sweatshops to make things soldiers needed. Life, I will confess, has been generous to me. Big bags of money have wandered in just when they would be most welcome. I bought a house. I have investments that generate income enough to keep the place up and to house its occupants in comfort, though that is mostly Singe's fault. Singe is a big part of my luck. I got no sense that the dead man was remotely close to awake.
You're going to do what Belinda wants.
I got no sense that the dead man was remotely close to awake. Her crisis had passed. Contractions were back. She was an amazement. Rat people voice boxes aren't made for colloquial human speech. It's Morley, Singe. I have to.
And Tinny? This could poison.
I have to. If she can't understand, we've both been wasting our time. Yeah. I was terrified. That might be the case. Tinny turned into a different woman once she was sure she made herself the only woman in my life. Things men associated with the dark side of a red-headed woman became exaggerated immediately. I will stipulate that the plus side remained as marvelous as ever.
All right.
Singe sounded like she was having trouble believing what she heard.
Wow. Since I know you will head straight for this ice and fireplace, I'll handle Tinny.
I started to protest, then grinned. People don't handle Tinny. Tinny handles people. Wrangle away. And good luck.
Are we likely to make money out of this, Garrett?
No. This time is for love.
That is the way you think most times. Maybe we'll get lucky this time too.
Chapter 9. Singe made sure I was armed and ready for the older, less friendly Ton Fair before she let me leave.
I will pray to the human gods that the civil guard doesn't roust you. You aren't a good liar. They'll pat you down 10 seconds after they stop you.
And my record as one of the finest subjects of the Carantine crown would not tilt the balance away from an arrest for possession of proscribed weaponry. Singe would not let me go with anything less. And
Even though this does not look like a situation where we will need the dead man, I'll try to wake him up.
Singe, you are a treasure. That was a wonderful straight line. I regretted it before I finished saying it. Singe, however, confounded heaven and earth by disdaining her opportunity.
I know. I have trouble imagining how you have survived without me. Get along. No, wait. What about your other friend?
Symptomatic of my reduced status, I asked, "What? Who?"
Saucerhead. Winger. Playmate. Half a dozen others.
Oh. Them. At the moment, Mama Garrett's boy didn't have much of a positive attitude toward her second favorite son. I had done so little to keep in touch. I guess you could, quietly, let them know there's a situation, without mentioning what happened to Morley. But I don't think we'll be asking them to get involved. Singe just shook her head. I needed to get out there and make my special rat girl happy by finding the real, missing Garrett. Chapter 10. Fire and Ice wasn't hard to find. It was a well-known establishment on the frontier of Elftown, serving the needs of the successful working man. Meaning it wasn't quite the upscale hook shop I expected, but it wasn't Rodin's Belly nasty either. It was a place where shopkeepers and skilled tradesmen could relax of an evening. A throwback kind of place, actually, because it didn't make its money on volume, nor entirely on marketing its keystone service. I expect the relaxed atmosphere was one way the house competed for scarce disposable income, much of which these days ends up in Tunfair's gaudy theaters. Playgoing was all the rage, in part because a man could take his wife. And the wives knew that. I gave my name at the door. It was no shibboleth. I tried Belinda's. There was the magic. A veteran brunette, absolutely a heartbreaker not long ago, turned up quickly. She had something special going. I was tempted to fail to remember that I was taken.
You came from Miss Contigue?
She asked me to keep watch on your injured guest. She considered my claim. She considered me. She consulted some recollection. She decided that I was the real thing, though she was not prepared to be impressed. My feelings were bruised. I was willing to be impressed by her, and I was as fine a specimen of former Marine as you're likely to find still vertical. I had my dings and scars, but they just let you know that I was the genuine article.
All right, come with me.
After a glare that dared me to even think about running with that. We passed through the fancy public lounge works, entirely uninhabited at the moment. Potential witnesses had been cleared out. In the back, where delicacies comestible and sensual got prepared, I spied several toothsome lasses, enjoying a light repast, and steadfastly taking no interest whatsoever in anyone passing through. 2 appeared to be full-blood elf girls. The others were nearly as gorgeous.
Stop slobbering on the carpet.
Sorry, I don't get out much anymore.
Here's a suggestion. Keep your hands to yourself while you're here.
Then she snorted. She was one of those people who can't keep their laughter out of their noses. It took me a few seconds to get the joke. I'm taken, I said stiffly.
Most of our clients are.
We came to a narrow, steep back stair. I'm Garrett, I said, though my name had failed to awe anyone yet.
I know. I've heard of you. I'm aware of your reputation.
Damn, I didn't know I had one. It's probably all lies and exaggerations. Who are you?
You can call me Miss T. If I find out that you're tolerable, I'll let you call me Mike.
Mike. One of those. Here? I had a brother we called Mikey.
For Michelle, he didn't come back?
That was a hard shaw. No. It broke my mother's heart. She gave up. She'd already lost my father and hers, and some brothers, to the terrible beast of war. Mike turned a little less hard-ass. Very little. Like almost every human in Carenta, she shared the experience.
You were luckier.
I was. Most of me made it home. She looked me straight in the eye.
And now you're stalling, so I'll go up the steps first, so you can be behind me and watch my ass.
That hadn't actually occurred to me, but now that you mention it, sure, I'll be a gentleman and let you to go first.
Living up to expectations so far. Enjoy the show. It's the best you'll get around here.
Did I threaten her somehow? Was she a secret agent of the red-headed Tate? I'll do that. It's a sin to ignore what the gods generously set before us.
And me without my work boots.
She started up the stairs and laughed mockingly as she went. And, hard as she might have tried, she could not help putting a touch of flounce in her step.
And you said you were taken. Hypocrite.
Are you my conscience? I was a tad flustered and confused, so I did try to lean back and enjoy what the gods set before me. I began to suspect that Misty was not entirely disinclined to have her assets appreciated, and that she considered her behind to be the best of those. And I thought she might be right, seen from where I was standing. Chapter 11. They had Morley stashed in a second-floor bedroom at the back of the house. I stuck my head in long enough to make sure he was breathing. He was lying on his back in a big, comfortable bed. He had bandages all over. He was having trouble breathing, a punctured lung. 2 house operatives were there with him, looking decidedly rough, as though standing a death watch over their one true love. I wanted to hop in and give my dark elf buddy a good swift kick. He was out of it, trying to die, and still he had women swooning.
What are you doing?
Scouting ways somebody might use to come after him, in case the folks who put the holes in him want to add to his collection. Madam Mike didn't follow my reasoning, but indulged me. There were 3 ways to get to Morley. Up the front stairs the clients used, up the back stairs from the kitchen, the way I came, up the outside of the building, then through a window. That would require a small, skinny assassin. The window would open only 6 inches. For the villain with gaudier ambitions, there was the time-honored option of burning the house with Morley inside it. While I examined the window, my guide evicted Morley's caretakers. She promised them they could handle communications between the room and the world. After they left, I asked, "How old are those 2? They seemed a little fresh to be in the life.
Dee Dee is 29. She has some elf in her. She's just gotten to the point where we can't auction her virginity. Her daughter Hellbore is 16.
Hellbore? Both were legal then. I couldn't imagine the older one having weathered the vicissitudes of her career so well. I said, "I'll settle here. If you have something like a field cot, I'd never have to leave."
Really? That would be useful. Business has been slow. I don't want what clientele we do get scared off by you. You're so straight arrow a blind man can see it. They'd think you were spying for their wives, or you were a runner collecting stuff for the unpublished committee's files.
By me? Come on. The unpublished committee for royal security were the secret police. I'll be good. I'll stay in here with my boy, making my list and checking it twice. Been a pleasure meeting you, Misty.
Not Misty, dolt. Miss T, as in the capital letter, for Tea Garden.
Flirty brown eyes flashed. I gave her my special raised eyebrow, the one that gets the nuns salivating. Miss T came close to slamming the door as she left. I had been out of circulation too long. I needed to sharpen my tools, unless she was one of those lesbian types. That would explain her natural resistance. I paced. I watched the world outside the window. I studied Morley and felt bad for him. I paced some more. Then I inventoried chamber pots, bedpans, pitcher of water and bowl. Then a second pitcher and bowl on a small table in a corner, accompanied by a bar of soap and a stack of towels. Of course there would be towels and soap, necessary to the trade in an establishment like this. I decided to ask for a cup or mug, so I wouldn't have to drink straight from the pitcher, using a ladle. The door opened after a perfunctory knock. Dee Dee and Hellbore lugged in a mildewed cot. They dumped that, made sure I hadn't let Morley die while they were gone. Miss T followed, pushing a small cart.
Food, drink, other stuff you'll need. Crush or Dee Dee will come around regular. They'll bring whatever you need brought and take away whatever you need taken.
She don't like her real name. Crush, Hellbore Crush, a foot shorter and 10 stone lighter than me, gave me a look that asked if I wanted to make something of that. All right, I tried to get Dee Dee to chat some. She had a marvelous, breathy way of talking. These women could not be fooled or manipulated. Unless you were Morley Dotes and you were unconscious, then they would be your slaves. Oh well, they were too weird anyway. The mother was mildly inclined to flirt, and had a silly streak. Crush had the cynical hard eye of a 20-year veteran of the life.
And you a bespoke man. What were you figuring on doing while you wait for something to happen?
I'll catch up on my sleep, and maybe spend some time worrying about what my woman will say when I come wandering home.
Are you a reader? We have a few books, mostly for decoration. Ask Crush. She's read them all. She might recommend something.
I looked at Crush, who did an outstanding bored teenager's whatever shrug. Thank you, Crush. Meantime, Dee Dee gave me a suggestive look. The new, improved, extra mature me thought that might be a marvelous pastime, especially if the excellent Miss T would join us. But then I'd still have to find something to do the other 23.5 hours of the day. And somebody would put a bug in Tinny's ear before I got my shoes off. So I stuck to, yes, I can read. This would be an excellent time to broaden my mind. So if Crush will bring me something, I'll be happy. At that moment I was still thinking in terms of minutes, hours and, at desperate most, a couple of days. Miss T herded the talent out of the room. I watched them go, wondering if they weren't running a scam. The purported mother not only acted younger, she looked it.
My obligation to the Contigues leaves me no choice but to give you whatever you want. Indulge me. Be reasonable. And, really, stay out of sight.
I blew her a kiss. She gently slammed the door. I set my cot up against it. As long as I was sleeping, loafing, or reading, any intruder would have to knock it over to get in.
Chapter 12. Waiting for Morley to get better got really boring really fast. Being Tinny Tate's boy toy had stripped me of my knack for enduring endless do-nothing. Tinny was not patient. She had rubbed off. Crush's taste in reading was unusual. The first thing she brought me was a collection of plays written by John Salvation, including the still-running Rouster, Queen of the Demenones, in which Tinny had had a featured role when the play first went on in Max Weider's World Theatre. You're a fan?
He tells wonderful stories.
The wildest were the ones he made up about himself. I know him.
He's a friend of yours?
No. He comes with a woman named Winger who is my friend.
Sort of, when temptation doesn't get in the way. Wow, I'd like to meet him.
Suddenly the girl had a new attitude. I stifled a cynical smile. Maybe someday, once this is done. I noted that Crush wasn't interested in Morley when her mother wasn't there. I asked, "Did you know Morley before they brought him here?"
Not me. Dee Dee did, I think.
She called her mother Dee Dee. Is there anything to read besides plays? I wondered who was putting those out there, and how. I'd had a scheme once, but it had involved using hundreds of rat people to make copies. Kip Prose could, probably, tell me how it was done, if he wasn't responsible.
There are some history scrolls. Tedious stuff about the olden times. Somebody left them when he couldn't pay his tab. Mike never got around to selling them.
The kid leaned closer and whispered,
She gets airs sometimes, she does. Gets above herself.
"All interesting? Grist for the mill. Me soaking stuff up, getting the old ear back." When I worked up a good case of cabin fever, I tamed it by rolling the sheet back off my friend. Morley had suffered 8 deep stab wounds. He had an additional 12 cuts. And he had a fine collection of bruises and abrasions from having been kicked, clubbed, and dragged. I hoped that Belinda would have her ear to the ground listening for the brag of the sort of idiot who can't help telling somebody what he did. People tell me I think too much. Most of the time things are exactly what they seem. Trying to make more out of them is a mug's game. I say that when you stop believing in weird conspiracies that involve scores of people who never break faith, you're fully ripe for the weird to come get you. I was thinking that kind of stuff and, alternately, trying to dismiss it or get it to make some kind of sense if I entered Morley into the equation. I couldn't get anything rational to fall together. There was nothing to do but wait on the man himself. Chapter 13. Somebody shoved against the door to the room so hard that the impact against my cot wakened me. I got my feet under me. I stood the cot up against the wall. I was not in a good temper when I opened that door. Miss T was my antagonist, I blurted.
What the hell?
I do this at any time when a rational being.
Stuff it, Garrett.
I sniffed. Something smelled odd. Miss T had not come alone. That was Belinda Contigue. The smell came from behind me. I glanced at the window. It was dark outside except for a 3/4 moon. What the hell? One curtain bottom had been pushed a foot aside, enough for me to see the moon in a cloudless sky. The window was up about 3 inches. I had left the curtains closed and the window shut. The smell came from outside. I forgot about the rude folks in the hall. Something more sinister had been going on. I ought to be grateful that they had wakened me. I went to the window. It would not open enough for me to lean out. Every shadow across the street, though, felt like it was hiding something rotten. I said, "I'm way off my game. I might not be the man for this job, Belinda. Let me ask, less irritably, what's the occasion?" Belinda took in the situation with the window.
I brought a healer.
She and Miss T moved aside. A small, well-rounded, bald-headed man passed between them. He sniffed the air. "I hope that's not your patient." The healer wore dull black clothing in a style declared defunct 150 years ago. Deservedly. Clothes horse Morley should have shrunk away even in a coma. The healer belonged to a cult called the Children of the Light, of the Dying Light. A prime tenet was no sexual conduct. They were militant pacifists, to the kind willing to pound the snot out of you if you tried to claim that war might actually solve something. They were born-again do-gooders as well, but so smugly self-righteous that most people loathed them. They ran soup kitchens. They ran shelters. They ran free clinics. They had made a bid for control of Tunfair's grand, totally corrupt charity hospital, the Bledsoe. They did a lot of good for a lot of people. Their healers were minor magic users. The heel turned a blind eye to their unlicensed operations because they confined themselves to charity work. Cynicism being my nature, when I thought about the children, I mostly wondered where they got their funding. Saving the life of a friend of the Queen of Darkness might shake loose a serious donation, unless she decided to have the healer drown so he wouldn't talk about Morley's condition or whereabouts. "Excuse me," nameless round character said. Nobody made introductions. He pushed through and plopped his carpetbag down near the head of the bed. He began examining what was left of my friend. I urged Belinda over to the window. I used my left thumb and forefinger to measure the gap before I shut it again. As soon as he can survive it, I want to move him to my place.
Factory slide of Macunado Street.
Macunado. Nobody will come after him there.
I'd rather move him out to my place in the country.
I didn't argue. There's no point with Belinda. She would go on doing things her way while empires collapsed around her. This time, though, she could be right. The Contigue residence didn't have a live-in logire, but it was a fortress. The facilities and amenities were superior. It could be a long time before he's in shape to travel that far. I have visited the Contigue digs under a range of circumstances. A man could live comfortably there. He could also go in and never be seen again.
He won't go anywhere before he's ready.
One pallid finger, tipped by a long carmine nail, tapped the windowsill. I nodded. A patch of something lay there, glistening. Something drying out. It reminded me of the trail left by a migrating slug. I whispered, "Send me a pound of salt." She might have been Belinda Contigue, but she was a girl.
She didn't know about salt and slugs.
All right.
The healer announced, I've done what I can. He won't die, but he will be a long time getting back to normal. He may have been stabbed with cursed blades. That smelled religious, which made no sense. Morley had enemies who would happily poke him full of holes if they could get away with it. They weren't religious wackos, nor were they so abidingly nasty as to go after his soul as well as his life.
Must be a woman.
No man was that vindictive. I don't know what's been going on in his life. I see him only when we stop in at the Grapevine after a show. You know my situation.
I tried to talk to Tinny. I wanted her to know what's happening.
I didn't like her tone.
I was polite and respectful, Garrett. She was not.
I really didn't like her tone. Tinny could get hurt. She's really insecure world and can clearly continue colloca historic.
I was
worried.
I'd grab a tranquil. I reminded me of the Weas Kakatool. On the Sperla Wab.
I just tried to explain the situation. She didn't endear herself. It wasn't about her.
Almost certainly my dearly beloved had failed to become more intimate with fierce pain primarily because she was my dearly beloved. Could she be made to understand that anymore? Tinny couldn't have changed that much. How could she? She was brilliant. She understood the real world. She had shared its harsh realities with me. She could figure things out. She had discovered, years ago, that Tinny Tate was not the center, fulcrum, or favorite child of the universe. I had this chill like it was midnight on the boulevard and I was fixing to whistle my way past the graveyard. I had an epiphany. We're seeing symptoms, not the disease. Belinda grunted, more interested in watching slime dry. I stopped worrying about my troubles and checked my pal. His color and breathing had improved. He looked ready to wake up. The round cultist went away. Belinda and I looked at each other. We wore big, goofy grins. I went right on, having trouble believing there could be anything but business between her and Morley.
Chapter 14. We were alone, the three of us. Morley fought the good fight, trying to escape his nightmares. I wandered my own realms of fear, where my ill-defined love for a friend might have cost me everything else I held dear. Belinda sat beside me on the cot. We leaned back against the door. She was so far gone off somewhere else I wondered if she could get back. Maybe she was trying to find Morley so she could lead him home.
I didn't get there in time.
What? Where? In time for what?
Raisin's bookshop, in time to round up two-step Timmy.
No point correcting her. Her heart was in the right place, though maybe oddly shaped, hard and cold. Made a run for it, did he?
Straight to the owl car. The tin whistles beat me there.
They get more efficient by the day, hard on both of us.
A few still appreciate a generous tip.
Good to know. You get anything interesting?
Two-Step said his interlocutor was a woman's.
Damn. Look at you. You've been taking a class, interlocutor?
Oh yes, look at me. Damned near as smart as your rat girl.
I'm too tired to squabble. I've got redheads on the brain.
You'd salivate if you met this one. If Timmy told the truth.
Not many guys lie once they're inside the Alcar, and the truth is the only key to getting out. No more redheads.
I'm talking red hot, not red hair. Young and with a flair for show. Two-Step says she wore skin-tight black leather.
You naughty girl.
Not me, dolt. Not anymore. I sag in too many places to make it work.
Golden Tongue Garrett conceded. I know that. And he didn't even realize he'd stepped in it.
Oh yes, that's why I love you. You say the sweetest things.
I wish your whole species would dispense with that stuff. Can't talk about the damned weather without it turning into...
Can it, Garrett? What Two-Step said could mean we have a bigger problem.
I'm listening.
The one witness to the attack on Morley told me that a well-assembled girl in skin-tight black leather directed the creatures who stabbed him. She had about a cubic yard of bushy blonde curls. The girl Two-Step met was a short-haired brunette with intense brown eyes. The blonde, no telling about the eyes.
Creatures?
Men in tight wool costumes with big gray eggs for heads.
You didn't bother to tell me before?
I couldn't tell you what I didn't know then.
I got that. Go see Puddle and Sarge. They might know what he was into. She didn't respond. I had just said something dumb. I guessed they didn't know anything.
You are correct, sir. Morley walked out of the grapevine after the late play rush. They never saw him again, and that was all they knew.
I had no trouble believing it. That was Morley freaking dotes. Total individualist. I guess all we can do is be patient and hope he gives us something when he wakes up.
You're a screaming genius, Garrett. I'm so glad Morley and I have you for a friend.
I am a special kind of guy. Chapter 15. The sun was up when I awakened. So was the Queen of Crime, in a good mood despite being caught in the inelegant process of riding a chamber pot. She pointed.
Look there!
What am I supposed to notice?
We closed the curtains and the window.
Oh. The curtains had been pushed aside, the window had been raised 4 inches, and the sill glistened with more dried slime. I never liked the kind of window that slides up and down.
I don't know why I woke up when I did. I don't care. But when I did, I saw what looked like a python oozing through the crack. It was about a yard in. I guess it was headed for Morley's.
I eased over, studied the window close up. That allowed her some dignity at the same time. A big snake? Really?
Not exactly. You saw real giant snakes when you were off in the islands. You probably wouldn't have been impressed. But that's what it looked like to me.
It went away once it realized you were awake.
After I hit it about 20 times with your club.
The woman was gorgeous and brilliant and evil, but she was no connoisseur of personal use non-lethal defensive instruments. I carried nothing so mundane as a club. Why didn't you wake me up?
I hollered. You didn't even roll over. Then I was busy slamming the slime out of that damned thing.
You should have poked me with the stick.
I was distracted. I didn't think of that.
And that was right in character. She hardly ever asked for help, even when she had no choice. This thing with Morley was a wonderment. All right, tell me how it happened. In order. Exactly.
I told you, there was this snake thing. I pounded on it till it pulled back. The shiny stuff is what it left. And yes, I know we have to move Morley now because we can't totally protect him here.
Morley made a noise. I thought he wanted to say something. I was wrong. He had a problem with phlegm. That's a good sign, isn't it?
I think so.
For a few seconds, Belinda was the woman she could have been if she had chosen different parents and wasn't a flaming sociopath. You got anybody set up around here besides me?
Outside, you're my inside guy. You're the one I trust.
Somebody tapped on the door. I couldn't help myself. What's the password?
How about breakfast, Nimrod?
That sounded like Dee Dee. Belinda collected my head knocker and got ready to brain an intruder clever enough to mimic Dee Dee's twang. I cleared the bowl and pitcher off the nightstand. Dee Dee parked the tray she carried. She turned on Dotes.
It worked. He looks 1,000% better. He's coming back. He's going to be all right.
She bounced and clapped her hands like a girl younger than Crush, then bolted out. I asked, "What's the story there?"
I don't know. It may be best that I don't.
I hadn't meant Dee Dee's connection to Morley. I'd meant Dee Dee and Hellbore. On reflection, though, there was no reason for Belinda to know anything about employees so far down the food chain that they dealt direct with the folks whose money fueled the Combine engine. She brought food enough for us and our childhood invisible friends. Let's do some damage. I hadn't eaten since I left Makunado Street. Dee Dee came back with Crush before we were done. Crush jumped all over me.
You weren't supposed to eat the cream of wheat.
The what?
The mosh, Nimrod. That was for him. The heavy stuff was for you.
The invisible friends must have gotten that. I hadn't seen anything I considered part of a hearty breakfast, the nearest thing to a real breakfast. Belinda squeezed my left elbow. She had some grip for a girl.
Garrett, your job is to keep your mouth shut, look pretty, and break the legs of anybody who tries to hurt Morley's.
I could do 2 out of 3 blindfolded, but the mouth thing has been a lifelong challenge. Belinda, silence is too hard. I was always chock full of words that want to be free. Some even coagulate into rational somethings. Chapter 16. Good thing Crush and Dee Dee were dedicated to Morley's welfare. I was still wondering if I had what it took to feed him when they finished that and got to work dealing with the consequences of giving an unconscious man food and drink. He needed bathing. His bed needed changed. I opened the window to the max during the process.
You have to get more water into him. He's hot, but he isn't sweating the way he should.
What would she know about dark elf fevers and sweats? Shrug. I have made a point lately of not hearing anything interesting about Miss Contigue. Some would say that I'd made a point of not hearing anything interesting about anybody who lacks red hair. I wondered how Tinny was doing. I said, "My gut is full. While you're all here, I'm going to look around outside." Belinda gave me a dire look. "Fear not, I won't make a run for it." I reclaimed my stick and got out, just to stretch my legs. Belinda's watchers were easy to find. They all recognized me. They had been with her when she collected me on Factory Slide. They had nothing to report. 2 were so bored they would have talked about anything with anybody. The last one, though, had nothing to say. He had seen something interesting. Something interesting had seen him, too. He looked like he was napping at the top of a stairwell to a cellar. He had been dead long enough to cool down. A few years ago that would not have moved me. Back then every night produced its crop of corpses for morning harvest. But our great city is fraught, entangled in the throes of change. Casually created cadavers have become uncommon. Direct to railways winnows have been harsh. I considered the scene with time-dulled mind and senses. This was not one of Belinda's coach crew. He had not died fighting, so had not been alarmed by the approach of whoever did him in. I crossed over to the wall beneath Morley's window. That was red brick. It glistened. There was dried something on the cobblestones, too. A pile of goat-scat marbles lay a few feet south of the glisten. Flies were feasting. I marveled at all the quiet. Senior management at Fire and Ice had to know the true names of some well-placed clients. True names weren't just useful in the sorcery game, they were invaluable in politics and the blackmail game. Even the passive sort that assures localized maintenance of public works and a useful police presence. Or absence. The streets were in perfect repair. Night lamps were in place and unbroken. There wasn't a red top in sight. There wasn't anyone in sight. Which explained why a dead man could cool down without an uproar. I made a second round of Belinda's watchers. Then I went back to report. Dee Dee and Crush had finished. I met them in the hallway. I found Belinda seated on the edge of Morley's bed holding his hand. She started, pulled away, looked slightly guilty. I ignored that. He does look like he's coming back.
You don't look good. What happened?
Somebody killed your man who was watching the window. You want to see, look to your right, far side, at the top of that cellar well about 40 feet along. Belinda looked.
Oh, I see him now. Looks like he's sleeping.
Which is why nobody noticed till I tried to wake him up. Belinda went from concern to grim in a heartbeat. She nodded but just stared at the dead man. Bodies and parts thereof would begin skewing Director Railway's violent crime statistics real soon.
Let me guess, those idiots never saw a thing.
No, they did. But I had to ask twice. They only thought they hadn't seen anything. Once they heard that a friend was dead, they remembered an old woman with a goat cart passing through, headed toward downtown.
What's the kicker? I'm in no mood for guessing games.
It took her over an hour to get from the guy in the north to the guy in the south. It should have taken 5 minutes. The guy who saw her first said he heard her going. The man on the south side said he never heard anything. Bam. She was there. She scared him. He says her cart smelled.
That's it?
That's it.
There wasn't a cart out there when I looked. After I hit that thing with your club.
I got up to the window. If it was next to the wall, you wouldn't have seen it.
I'll go get writing stuff.
She was ahead of me.
I need to send a note to Pular Singe, an offer of employment.
But I didn't want my little rat girl involved in something deadly. Not again. Belinda set a brisk pace when she had a goal. She was ahead of me.
I need to send a note to Pular Singe, an offer of employment.
But I didn't want my little rat girl involved in something deadly. Not again. Belinda set a brisk pace when she had a goal. She returned with the essentials for letter writing before I finished inventorying improvements in Morley's condition.
I brought extra paper. I'll write a letter of my own for Singe to pass on to John Stretch. I may have work to subcontract.
She was in the red zone. Somebody was going to get hurt. I hoped that wouldn't be her, or Morley, or especially me. I should send a note to Tinny, too. Chapter 17. I did write a letter. It seemed futile once I finished. I didn't have it delivered. Tinny knew what was going on. Anything I said wouldn't change her mind. My dearly beloved had become fixed in her attitudes. She didn't let facts get in the way of her making up her mind. My friends thought that was my fault. Tinny and I had a long history. When I stood up on my hind legs, she would pack the attitude in. But I did let stuff slide because it was easier to go along. I was supposed to be guarding someone, not known to be alive, in a hideout where nobody would think to look. The engineer of the hidery hadn't been successful. Somebody had tried the window already. A guard had lost his life. Then, scarcely an hour after Belinda went away, the last person I expected to see ambled into the room. Dee and Crush were with me, Dee worshipping Morley with her 2 young eyes, while Crush plotted some means of getting the best of her mother once Morley came around. I got into weird stuff, but not this kind of weird, where a mother looks younger than her daughter and acts it, both of them being professional ladies, fiercely competitive, and desperately eager for positive feedback from a man claimed by a bad woman from far above them in the food chain. I finished nailing the window shut. Most excellent, Garrett. A job well done. I heard the soft scrape of a foot on hallway carpet. I turned. Deal Railway came in, the director himself. The terrible swift sword of the law, older and more worn than when last I saw him. I had heard that he never left the Alcar anymore. Too many outsiders wanted to break his bones. He was a little guy and ugly. Sometime way back an impudent dwarf had taken a climb through the family tree, plucking forbidden fruit. Additional members of the other races had contributed over the generations. Railway's minions were too efficient. He had arrived with no more warning than his shoe brushing the nap of the carpet. He looked around.
About what I expected. You ladies finish what you're doing and go.
They had no idea who he was. I told them. It's all right. He's no enemy. Frowning, unsure, they drifted out into a house saturated with red tops. Railway studied Morley.
Hard to believe.
Bad luck can catch up with anybody. What brings you in out of the smoke?
The hope that I might learn something helpful in dealing with a problem that's been nagging me almost since you dropped out. His tone and mannerisms were casual. He was more comfortable than when last I had seen him.
You do understand where you are, whose place you've entered without invitation.
Not something that concerns me. Her interests and mine coincide right now. Down the road, I'll probably shut her down.
It's good to be confident, but you, sir, are going to die young. And when you do, you'll refuse to believe that it could happen to you. Railway was neither devastated nor confused. I kind of felt sorry for him. I didn't know what I was talking about either.
You've been out of action for a while, Garrett. The paradigms have shifted.
Many casualties? Much property damage? I wasn't sure what a paradigm was. He didn't look likely to explain. Good for you. But what about right here, right now?
Let us readjust and reassess. At the moment, I have no interest in what Mr. Dotes may be doing with his life. I'm even disinterested in the fell Miss Contag. I am interested in making contact with whoever or whatever was responsible for Mr. Dotes' condition.
Why is that?
I am pledged to protect King and Crown. Something out there means to attack both. Your friend may have stumbled into it.
So, he felt threatened because he wasn't on top of everything happening in our marvelous city. We talked, though not about much of consequence. Half an hour later we parted, me thinking that neither of us had profited, till I realized just how far out of trim I was. He had learned plenty by listening to what I didn't say, as in not asking what he had learned from Jimmy Two Steps. I must know already, despite being holed up here, seeing no outsider but Belinda. The runt had peeked through the curtains of my dreams. Given time, I relaxed enough to realize that Railway had come fishing. He hungered for information on something that troubled him deeply, and I hadn't helped despite my honesty. Railway's crew left fire and ice in stages, careful to protect the director. So Crush said when she brought lunch, once the scary little man was gone. I loathed myself for my idiot response to a girl her age, while aching because a girl her age considered a guy my age a bad joke. But she could go cow-eyed over Morley dotes, thinking it somehow wondrous that she had gotten to change the diaper of a bad boy dark elf a whole lot older than me. Crush was indifferent to Garrett the man. Our basis for interaction was Morley. She admitted that she had no idea who he really was. Dee might know him, though. The whiny guy inside asked, "So why are you drooling all over him?" She rose dramatically in my estimation. She gave my question some thought.
I don't know. Not when I try to logic it out. Is he a sorcerer?
Your guess would be better than mine. You're female. I've never figured it out. Maybe he gives off a smell because he's a vegetarian.
I doubt that. Anyway, with me it's probably about competition with Didi. And he has an exciting reputation. He's bad, he's beautiful, and he has been connected with some famous women. Strip everything else away, there's still bare-naked curiosity. What did those other women find so special?
I considered Morley sourly. He had told me once that he had worked hard crafting his reputation. By building it and broadcasting it, he guaranteed himself a bottomless pool of ladies wondering what the excitement was all about. He had insisted that there was no trickery involved. He was providing excuses so women could pursue their own wicked desires. Crush finished her work. She had no excuse for hanging around. She left without an apology, a farewell, or a broken heart. I shut the door, pushed my cot against it. I lay down for a nap that didn't last but 2 or 3 hours. Then I was wide awake again. I took advantage of the chamber pot, then checked the window. It was still nailed shut. On the other hand, it was glass. Glass could be broken. Chapter 18. Sound came from the bed. I dropped John Salvation's omnibus of masterpieces. I thought Morley was choking. He was. On words. His eyes were open. He was trying to talk. His eyes were wild. He did not want to know where he was or what was happening. His latest memories were of being stabbed. Seeing me did not help. He did not recognize me. Time was on my side. He wasn't going anywhere. He had neither the strength nor the will to do so. He was feeling every wound. One try to get up left him clear on how he would spend his next few weeks. He didn't quite scream. He wasn't loud enough to bring on the rest of the house. He lay there panting, collecting himself. He did recognize me now. You finally irked somebody a little too much. Maybe laid your blessings on the wrong wife or daughters. He made a sound of negation. Then it's business or your past catching up. He did not respond. He turned thoughtful. Since he was supposed to be an honest restaurateur these days, I surmised that he was mining memory for a connection. He continued not to respond. Should I put aside the notion of a vengeful revenant? There would be few such who remained alive and dangerous. The Morley I knew when we were younger didn't leave live enemies behind. He lapsed into sleep, then wakened again a few hours later, still unable to speak. He did make me understand that he was thirsty. He was asleep when Didi and Crush came for the evening cleaning and feeding. I did not share the good news. I wanted them out of the way quickly. Miss T looked in during the cleanup but left without saying anything. Morley went for a long, deep doze. When John's salvation became too much for me, I kept hearing his irritating, whiny, scratchy voice as I read. I turned down the lamps, sprawled on the cot, and got busy doing some snoozing of my own. At some point, I halfway wakened with the vague notion that Morley was trying to say something. Very mechanical and as clear as a falling down drunk speaking his native tongue. Later still, I halfway wakened thinking something was trying to open the window. The glass squeaked. The frame creaked. There was a flash and bang outside, followed by yelling and screaming. The shrieks of civil guard whistles followed. I saw nothing when I got to the window. There was no light. There was a heavy overcast. I heard nothing more till early birds Dee and Hellbore wakened me by banging the door against my cot. Hellbore. Wow. What a marvelous name.
Chapter 19. This time, Morley woke up while the women were ministering to him. I got to witness another of those fascinating, inexplicably repugnant things that happen around him. 2 professional comfort women went red with embarrassment when he opened his eyes. I just leaned against the wall, out of the way, and marveled. Unbelievable. Dee was in a charitable mood, or needed to overcome her shyness by diverting her attention toward an unthreatening target.
There was some excitement out there again last night.
I'd almost convinced myself that I had dreamed it. I hope it was less deadly than before.
I think it was pretty ugly. You should talk to Miss T about that.
I'll look forward. Moments with Mike are more precious than pearls. Dee would never be an aficionado of my special humor. She looked at me blankly, not even wondering if I was poking fun. Crush, though, rolled her eyes. She awarded me a sneer that said she got me and I was lame. Morley made noises that sounded like they belonged to the family of questions most frequently asked upon awakening in strange circumstances. I told him, we're hiding out on the 2nd floor of a hook shop called Fire and Ice, a subsidiary of the Contague family enterprise. We're here at Belinda's behest. She thought this would be a safe place to hole up till you heal enough to move to her place. Your lovely attendants are Dee and her daughter Hellbore, who prefers to be called Crush. They have been tending you since you were brought here. What, 4 days ago, ladies? Dee counted on her fingers.
Yep, 4.
Then she actually curtsied. Crush rolled her eyes. Morley made noises. I translated. He says pleased to meet you and thank you for all the care you've lavished upon him.
Didn't sound like that to me.
Nor to me. He might have expressed himself a little less elegantly. A man with deep stab wounds tends to be curt and cranky, especially when he's just wakened and the pain is catching up. But those were the core sentiments he wanted to convey, deep down in his heart of hearts.
Man, you are full of it.
It's one of my most endearing qualities. She snorted. I'm really a big old lovable stuffed bear once you get to know me. Another snort, dismissive but not derisive.
That isn't going to happen. The Kepa left very specific instructions to the entire house. Not even Didi is dim enough to confuse them.
She eyed her mother, who kept right on looking like Crush's happy younger sister.
Or maybe she is, but she's already fixated on the bad boy.
In another place and time, under different circumstances, we could have been great friends. I like the twists your mind takes. That left her speechless. I indulged my evil laughter. I hadn't had a chance in a long time. Then, being a trained detective, I detected. You guys didn't bring breakfast with you this morning.
It wasn't ready. There were problems in the kitchen on account of some of the staff are late.
My paranoid bodyguard side went on alert.
Mostly they're late because they have to get through all the tin whistles and whatnot that are out there. But some are fighting hangovers and stuff too. The chief cook's daughter got married last night and that idiot paid for an open bar after. There'll be all the food you can eat once they get rolling.
Needlessly. Crush rolled her eyes again, this time for no obvious reason. Morley stayed quiet. He listened, building mind pictures of character. I said, I'll need one of you to help feed him when the food does come. Dee startled me.
That should be Crush. She does it better than me.
Crush shook her head. She didn't want the job if her mother didn't want it. I opined, maybe we ought to let Miss T decide. Because that worthy had arrived,
A wondrous medley of breakfast aromas pursued her. A previously unmet young lady deposited a tray on the nightstand. It was beginning to get crowded. If I had been between 12 and 29, I would have been in heaven. But I was a big boy now, no longer allowed to think that way. And the stench off a side of bacon was a total distraction.
Dee Dee, you and Crush go down and help serve. I'll feed Mr. Dotes while I talk to Mr. Garrett.
Serve?
I opened the grand parlor to the civil guards, serving tea and sweet rolls. A goodwill gesture.
Always helps to be on good terms with the local red tops.
It is. Move along, ladies. Vito's suitor Garrett, before you pig out totally, hand me that glass and the long spoon.
That glass contained a greenish sludge made from something a starving pig probably would refuse, but which might be good for a guy full of knife holes.
Some water, too.
That got to Morley via a reed. Miss T trapping a small quantity by holding a thumb over the reed's upper end, then releasing the dribble into Morley's mouth. It worked better when he was awake. He was very thirsty. Miss T fed him patiently, in little bits.
There was more excitement last night.
So I heard. The neighborhood is overrun by red tops.
They're everywhere. Half my people can't get to work. I try to make the tin whistles comfortable while they waste their time, and mine.
What happened?
The night visitor came back. The Kepa had a specialist waiting, and Director Railway had a team of specials in the area too.
I thought I heard an explosion, but I didn't see anything when I looked out the window.
There was an explosion. Why don't you go down and see for yourself while I do this?
Sounds like a plan.
Here.
She pulled a slip of parchment from its nest in her cleavage. It was warm and lightly scented. What's this?
An employee pass. It will get you in and out if you have to deal with people who don't know you.
Thank you. That should be useful. For a moment I wished I could spread the brag amongst my circle. I had written proof that I was a bona fide employee at a top-level brothel. On reflection, though, it might be better to keep it to myself. I would hear every possible bad joke from people determined to undermine my dignity. Towel boy would be the most generous accusation I'd hear. The pass proved unnecessary. Several tin whistle sergeants remembered me, something, and had been tipped that I had semi-official standing. This one time only, my presence within sight of a crime scene was to be tolerated. Barry was a humorless man, but a good guy. He attached himself to me like that was his special assignment. He took me on a tour.
Everything is right where it fell. The director and General Block want to see it all for themselves before we start the cleanup.
There would be some of that to do. The neighborhood had been blessed with 5 corpses. 2 had been civil guards. Another had been one of Belinda's men. The remainder were unknowns, presumed to have been companions of the perpetrator. They wore tattered gray wool. They had wooden helmets encasing their heads.
Son,
somebody believes in living on the edge.
The prevailing theory is that it's somebody who can't make the connection between actions and consequences. We got a sicko out there, Garrett. A huge sicko.
A race was on now between the outfit and the guard. Honors to the winner would be first chance to have a long, painful sit-down with whoever was behind these deaths. The mystery men in gray had fallen in the street on a line from under Morley's window to the place where Belinda's watcher had perished earlier. The force of the bang had hit them from behind, hurling them a dozen yards across cobblestones. A blood trail said one crawled 20 feet before expiring. The broken remains of a cart and roasted carcasses of 2 goats marked the beginning of his brief trek. Against the brick wall, below the window, lay a chunk of something that put me in mind of squid. There were no tentacles or anything. It was just that the skin on the uncooked side had a texture that stirred the squid notion.
Most of the guys were reminded of snails. I guess because of the crust on the brick.
No shell.
No tentacles either.
That's true. Do we know what happened?
We know exactly what happened, minute by minute.
Give me the highlights, if you would be so kind.
The goat cart showed up just like it did before. Like whoever was bringing it had no idea that we might be watching.
But with 2 thugs along.
Stupid. Totally overconfident stupid. Miss Contigue had a friend off the hill tucked in to watch. Same place as the guy who got waxed. He used a stealth spell that wasn't completely effective. The villain didn't notice him right off. When he did, the hill guy unleashed the lightning.
And that caused all this.
It did. Miss Contigue used somebody from the first string.
Where's the villain?
Got away. Come over here.
Barry led me past the wreck of the cart to a patch of what looked like candle black 15 feet across. At its center was a circle of perfectly pristine cobblestones a yard across. The black around the circle was 1/8 of an inch thick. Small footprints left, past all the casualties, and headed toward downtown.
Proud. There was a running fight. That's when we lost our guys. And the outfit soldier.
No wounded, just dead.
Yep.
And the sorcerer.
The one who made the bang? Too old and fat to keep up.
Surrounding buildings were too tall for me to see far, but I thought the villain's line of flight might parallel a crow's toward the hill. I didn't mention that. I didn't need to. That angle would be getting a hard look already, not just by the red tops and outfit, but by key people on the hill. They don't like rogue behavior likely to attract more animus than they already enjoy.
This is a puzzlement, Sergeant. It is indeed. Dotes said anything yet?
Here was why I had my very own red-top tour guide. Not yet. Believe me, though, I'll have a book full of questions when he does wake up.
If he does.
He's my oldest friend, Sergeant. I'm bound to think positive.
Was I you, I'd do my best to be positive. After last night, people all the way up to the Crown Prince are going to want to ask him what's going on.
I made one of those intuitive leaps for which I'm not well known. I'll bet an angel right now that he won't have any idea.
He's going to clam and try to handle it himself?
Morley's mind would work that way. Not what I meant. I mean, I'm willing to bet he knows less about what's going on than you or me.
But somebody wants to kill him.
Maybe. But maybe the somebody who was here wasn't the same somebody who turned him into a pincushion. Maybe this somebody wants to find out what that somebody was up to. I was brainstorming. That notion arose from the fact that there had been no sorcery involved in the attack on Morley. Mistaken identity might be involved, or somebody thinks Morley knows something that he doesn't. I could come up with this stuff all day. It's just speculation.
Sicko.
Probably. Undoubtedly. In the spirit of open cooperation, I began to quiz Barry about crimes that might have been related to what had happened here. Relway had mentioned a deep interest in a pattern of ugliness. I did not get to run with that. After discovering that she could not open the window to yell at me, Miss T began pounding on glass to get my attention. She beckoned vigorously. Got to go, Sergeant. Thanks for everything. Chapter 21. Miss T did not give me a chance to ask what was happening.
I didn't tell you to take the rest of the day off. I'd cover for you.
The Red Tops gave me the first-class tour. I've never seen them this serious. We may have Prince Rupert himself up here later. She wanted to go on being irritated, but put that aside. A visit from the Crown Prince had a ton of meaning.
I see.
Our own prince say anything while I was out? Dotes was sound asleep again.
He proposed. A 2-hour common-law marriage. After he gets on his feet again. I'm thinking about it.
Another sign that he's recuperating. Miss T scowled at me and grumbled something I don't think Morley would have found endearing. She absented herself in quest of more important duties. She didn't take the breakfast tray. I poured cold tea, put my cot back down, settled, picked up the Salvation Omnibus and tried reading Star-Crossed Love. The title said it all. The theme animated most of the plays put on in Tunfair's theaters. There were autobiographical elements to this one. The female protagonist, instead of being the usual faint-hearted Rose, resembled Salvation's girlfriend, Winger. After a few pages I glanced over, wondered aloud.
What did you get yourself into this time?
It looked big. That didn't fit. Morley would not do anything to invite the attention of Prince Rupert. That left me thinking about the attack on me and Tinny. We weren't involved by choice either. I went back to the play. I needed to clear my head. I finished the first scene in Act 3, looked over, found Morley looking back, not brightly. What the hell did you do? He gave me a weak smile.
Water?
In a raspy little croak. I dribbled water. When he had enough, he went back to sleep. Nothing said and no questions answered. Crush brought lunch and took breakfast's remains away. I told her, I need more water and a chamber pot change.
I need a diamond tiara.
Despite the attitude, all was handled quickly. Morley woke up, drank water, dispensed no wisdom, and went back to sleep. An hour before supper the healer returned, tricked out in his best morning outfit. I did not care enough to ask why the children dressed that way. I was getting jaded and distracted. Accompanying the healer was a serious surprise from yesteryear. The Windwalker, furious tide of light. She was surprised to see me too, and a tad embarrassed, I think. She lowered her big, beautiful violet eyes. I greeted the sorceress politely, inwardly pursuing a goofy calculation trying to connect a heavyweight off the hill with a cult healer because of the word light. I don't have an adequately developed paranoid imagination. Belinda Cuntag accompanied them but stayed in the hall, observing. I did some observing myself. The Windwalker hadn't aged a minute. She remained totally waif-like and utterly delicious, but today she was all business. She moved to the window, looked out, paid almost no attention to Morley. I tried to remember if they had met. Those were confusing times, antediluvian times. I was a different man in a different world then, not a respectable member of the bourgeoisie. I couldn't help but snicker. That earned a scowl from all women present. What's happening with him?
He sleeps and he drinks water. I think he's getting better.
He drinks water. He wakes up, makes a little croak that means he's thirsty. I use the pipe, he sucks it down, then he goes back to sleep. For the lady in the hallway, I added, Miss T claimed he made a pass this morning. She was just trying to get my goat. It will be a long time before this fellow sins again. He examined Morley's wounds while he talked. He is the luckiest knife victim I've ever seen. Some of these wounds are 6 inches deep, yet not one cut an artery or hit a vital organ. There is no infection either. Don't press him with questions. He won't be able to answer for a while. Ah, here he is now. Morley's eyes opened. He catalogued the crowd, made his water sound. The healer produced a black glass bottle the size of my thumb. It had a clear glass stopper. 3 drops into each pitcher of water. Keep his water separate. This is for pain. There is a good deal of pain still, isn't there? Dotes grunted, closed his eyes. The healer spoke to the doorway. I've done what I can. He'll recover. How well depends upon how firmly he clings to my instructions. No straying from the diet. All the water he wants. The drops are not addictive. They will cause considerable drowsiness. Keep him clean. Turn him once in a while. Time is what he requires. There was a timetable in the instructions I gave you, madam. Enforce it to the letter. Wow, I'd never heard anybody give Belinda Cuntag orders. This nut was doing it. And she was nodding. She understood the instructions too. Morley was sure to try going before he was ready. Furious Tide of Light said nothing. After the early glances, she ignored Morley. She was fascinated by something in the street.
Your rat associate is quite clever.
The fit was tight, but I managed to join her. Singe was down below, talking to several senior red tops and a brace of wide loads from middle management in Belinda's enterprise. I was pleased to see my little girl getting the respect she was due as the finest tracker in the city. How so? I asked.
She means to backtrack instead of trail forward.
Backtrack goats. Easier than following some human who killed 3 people while making a getaway. Safer too. And more useful. Both incursions had come from the same direction and had gone on toward the hill. The girl is scary smart. What are you doing here?
Personal appeal from Prince Rupert.
Ah, a family friend, I recalled. And how is your dad and your daughter Kevin's?
We're not getting along at the moment. Let's concentrate on the task at hand. I'm not the woman you remember.
She turned her cool emerald eyes my way. I was afraid I was going to drown there. I'm sorry. I'm probably not the man you think you remember either. I watched some of John Stretch's Ratman associates emerge from shadows as Singe moved out with a train of thugs behind. Those hailed from several sides of the law. They stayed back so as not to distract her. I asked, you know why this mess is causing so much excitement? The Windwalker met my gaze. Her eyes were a striking blue. The shy girl I remembered emerged.
I can comment only from a position of vast ignorance. Prince Rupert is concerned about a possible hill connection.
I met the Crown Prince once. He'd asked me to be his personal agent. He was as determined as Deal Railway to afflict Tunfair with great gobs of law and order. Someone who failed to acknowledge that rules existed would be a definite black beast to him. What I wanted to know was, what are you doing here in this room, with us?
I had a notion that, with the healer's assistance, I might learn something useful. I was wrong. Then I was so startled by seeing you, I should get back to work. I need to be with those people out there.
Tight as it was, she got past me and Belinda without getting intimate. She left me totally rattled. Those eyes, I had forgotten those eyes. Chapter 22. Belinda gave the Windwalker a short lead.
There's something between you two. I thought I knew all the bimbos that came after me.
Only in her head, maybe. She took a weak run at me once upon a time. It didn't go anywhere. Though, she's a multiple personality type.
She'd have to be to come down off the hill to chase you.
Belinda was kidding, but was so tired and worried she made it sound serious. I kept my mouth shut. Belinda wasn't really interested. She held Morley's hand and asked,
Where the hell were you for those 10 days?
I got confused. 10 days. There's some things you haven't shared with me? The backstory changes as we move along?
What are you yammering about?
So I thought back and decided I was a dumbass. All she had said was that he had been laid up here 3 days before she brought me in.
I don't know. I'm having trouble getting my mind into fighting Trim.
You did wait 3 days before you came to me?
I was rattled. You, of all people, understand that we do stupid things when we aren't thinking straight.
He could have died.
But he didn't, and I did get around to you and the Children of the Light.
Sorry for barking.
I had it coming.
Belinda looked at Morley with the same cow eyes I have seen on 1,000 other women. I took a short ramble through the realm of intuition. Belinda. Were there any weird events around here before I showed up? Sometimes Miss Contigue is a mind reader. You suggesting that they suspected he was still alive but didn't know where to look? So they watched you. They raided your place to get you moving. No. That doesn't hang together. They watched you till you contacted me. Then they watched me. That's how I would have done it. How come they're so desperate? Where did it happen? What did the people who found him say?
I don't know where yet. I'm supposed to go look at a place. They found him dying. That's about it. It was obvious he wouldn't need his stuff anymore, so they started turning out his pockets.
And found something to connect him to you. So they did the right thing.
They did what they thought might put money in their pockets. No, that's just good public relations. You feed the beast sometimes.
Did they bet wrong? Did you get his stuff back?
I did. I thought he might have been hit because of something he was carrying. He had nothing on him, but he might have been cleaned out where he was attacked.
How about dead attackers? Nobody could do this much damage without Morley doing some damage back.
The place I'm going to check, there was some blood and other signs of a big fight, but no bodies. My people found 2 wooden buttons, a scrap of gray wool cloth, and a broken wooden mask with cast glass eye-hole covers. Weird, huh? I hoped Pilar Singe could do something with them. She said it's too late. That trail is long gone.
He was missing for 10 days?
Yes, again.
He really never told Sarge or Puddle or any of his mugs anything.
No, I went there even before he turned up full of holes. We talked about this already.
I have to ask over and over. You had a witness.
One who can't be found by anyone anymore.
Put away for safekeeping. In the river. With big rocks for shoes.
I'm thinking Ringer. Not based on any evidence, just intuition.
No marvelous body in tight black leather?
Not him. We'll find him eventually.
We would, of course. I can't see Morley wandering off for that long. For one night, maybe. But he's a hands-on guy with his business.
You're not producing original thought.
I'm not trying. I'm musing out loud. But here's a question of personal interest. How close are you working with the director?
We pretend not to see each other poking around. Communication between foot soldiers will be overlooked.
Last time our paths crossed, Railway was putting together teams of specialists. One was supposed to do forensic sorcery.
The specials. There are 12 squads, now, and more to come.
If the forensic sorcery group is up, maybe you can get Railway to check out this place when you visit it.
I'll suggest it. But the Red Tops don't give a shit about Morley.
I eyeballed Dotes.
What secrets would we prize forth once he could sit up and talk? He looked more relaxed. The drops in the water must have been working. There is one obvious answer to why Morley was missing for 10 days.
He was a prisoner.
Fits what we know, and might explain why someone tried to kill him, assuming he escaped.
He showed no signs of having been restrained.
I picked up a hand, looked at the wrist. Nothing, of course, meaning he wasn't kept in chains. Belinda stood at the window and watched the street, likely not seeing anything.
I'm considering changing my mind.
About?
Moving Morley to your house.
Really? Warily.
2 birds, I think. He wouldn't be safer anywhere else, and your partner could find out things we need to know.
Belinda is ever capable of doing the startling thing. One problem. Old Bones is dead to the world right now.
You always say that.
This time it's true. Actually, it's almost always true.
And you're here, the one man able to stir the relic out of his dreams.
Marginally true. Crush and Dee Dee arrived. Chapter 23. As mistress of an empire spanning the full underbelly of Tun Fair, employing more than 1,000 people, Belinda had obligations outside fire and ice, and she had digging to do. Yet she just sat there staring at Morley, muttering, while seated on a hard folding chair, courtesy of the genius of Kip Prose and the production acumen of the Amalgamated Manufacturing Combine. Miss T had brought 4 chairs that took hardly any room when folded. No doubt they cost a fortune, and cheap knockoffs would be available within weeks if I remained unavailable to fight for Amalgamated's intellectual property rights. There are laws, but we have to enforce them ourselves. Belinda? She did not respond. Hey, girl, listen up. Investigator working here. Let's get on with the questions and answers. She turned weary eyes my way. A long time ago, 2 days and a few hours, you told me some things about Morley's situation. There have been changes since, all moving toward the less specific and more ambiguous.
That can happen when you talk to witnesses.
True. You had an eyewitness. Now you don't?
Like I told you, he disappeared. His story didn't hold water anyway.
A ringer.
Looking back, I think he was fishing for a trace on Morley. I wasn't thinking clearly. I didn't hide the fact that he was alive.
Could he have been the villain himself?
I don't know.
Sergeant Barry insists that we're up against a sicko. Could he be one of those who feeds on the action around his crimes? Some even try to get in with the tin whistle so they can tag along during the investigation.
Could be. I'll bet this one is sick in more than one dimension.
Remember what he looked like?
If I was an artist, I could paint his picture.
You have trouble drawing stick figures.
I do.
We could recruit an artist.
I don't think... Hell, I know my powers of description aren't good enough.
I was thinking we could have the dead man capture the image and pass it to a skilled painter. We have some good portraitists in Tun Fair. Belinda glared like she meant to cause spontaneous human combustion through sheer willpower. I thought you'd be too paranoid to do it the easy way.
Paranoid? Me? You're the lunaf.
Suppose he did rummage through your head. She did not answer. The idea terrified her. He's done it before. You survived. What would he do with anything he found, besides sit around radiating smug because he'd gotten a peek up your skirt? She had no ready answer. The arrival of a flustered Miss T saved her the need.
You better come down, ma'am. The bloody friggin' Crown Prince's own self is here.
Looks like I'm needed.
Want me to come with? I know the man.
Bullshit. You don't even ooze between the toes in his circle, let alone run.
Bet that and you'd be wrong. He asked me to be his own personal private investigator one time, and I turned him down. I like being my own boss, as I have been since I told him, sorry, no. The job had gone to a clever rascal called Lurking Felsky instead. Felsky was sure to meet a bad end, so I told myself while stalking the floors of Amalgamated's manufactories, hoping to intimidate the rare fool who would steal from his employer at a time when people starved if they lost their job. Amalgamated and Weeder Brewing were the only employers creating jobs these days.
and I worked for both. Sitting there in the waning hours with the queen of crime and a best friend who couldn't show me his mocking smile, I had no choice but to look at who and what I had become, which left me a little embarrassed.
You stick to your job, I'll charm Rupert. Try not to hit him. If you do, though, try to pull your punches. Wise ass, I keep telling you I'm not that girl anymore.
Yes, she was. She just hid it better. And she was about to go into the presence of an abrasive and condescending personality. For all his high-mindedness and determination to do right for Carenta, Rupert was a dork. He was a hard case about his good works but did not have a ghost of a concept of royal subjects being anything but social and mental inferiors. He was a shepherd oath-bound to shield his dumb animals from danger. Good luck then, darling, I told Belinda.
Chapter 24. Crush came up late, bringing water and a pound of salt.
Lowerhead will herb. We had to send out. The cooks wouldn't give theirs up.
She moved gingerly.
You probably won't see me or Didi in the morning. We need time to recover. Those guard assholes all want the young staff, and they're lousy tippers.
What could I say? That you have to deal with assholes whatever your line of work? I did try to look sympathetic. Next time you do come, I could use something else to read.
If I can still walk, or you could go down and get something.
Wonder of wonders, the excitement faded away. However bold they were, the baddies figured out that it wasn't cost-effective to come after Morley at Fire and Ice. Night after night I sat there waiting for him to do something more than drink water and poop. It was like having a newborn, only I wasn't the one who had to change his diapers. I wondered about Singe's tracking expedition. I wondered what Relway was doing, what the Crown Prince was up to, and what Belinda had found out. And, more than anything, I worried about Tinny. I hoped she was better posted than I was. The only people I saw were Miss T, Crush, and Didi. Miss T helped some while the other ladies dealt with the upswing in demand for the house's principal product. Miss T did not pitch in with that. Nobody said anything about anything happening outside the house. I did get all the dirt on those who made Fire and Ice special. I sat in that room with that man and slipped ever nearer the bounds of explosive lunacy. I needed to rediscover patience. There would be a long training period once Morley climbed out of that bed. It might take him a year to get strong enough. Then we would go get whoever hurt him. Crush came in.
This is the last book we've got, and the most boring.
She passed me a ragged old thing from the last century, well into its senior years. It was tied round with ribbon to keep loose pages from getting away. What is it? Maybe I won't need to figure out these knots. Crush had decided I wasn't that awful after all. I was unthreatening, avuncular, the kind of uncle who keeps his hands to himself. We could talk about stuff, bookish stuff, but not for long. She was a popular girl with an extended list of regular clients. This book was a history of Tunfair's early years, up to the establishment of the monarchy. It was a copy of a copy. It was a slow read because the language was old-fashioned. I was excited because several chapters covered times when the dead man was still alive. He might get no mention, but I could peek through a window into the age that shaped him. Crush, how long you figure on staying in the life?
What kind of question is that?
Instantly defensive. A serious one from somebody who thinks your mind is wasted here.
The mind may be, that's not the business we're in. The body is getting pounded so hard I mean to walk on my 20th birthday. I shouldn't ever have to work again, if my investments are good. I might take Didi with me if she can learn to live without the attention.
Didi was the star of the house. Normally she dealt only with select private clients. She was a blonde, none too bright, part elf, extremely sensual when she was so inclined, and, rumor said, thoroughly enjoyed her work. That was unusual in her trade. She craved approval. She got all she needed here. Crush was afraid she would refuse to give it up. Crush was brighter than she pretended. In time I realized that all of our conversations came round to what we were working on at Amalgamated. Why? Amalgamated is a company, but you can't buy in. Different people have different percentages, but every fraction is fixed. If a founding partner wants out, he has to offer his points to the other investors first. So far, nobody has shown any inclination toward getting out. Amalgamated was designed to make us all rich by bringing the fruits of Kip Prose's genius to market. The big shareholders are Kip and his family, the Tates and the Widers of Wider Brewing. I have a few points for having kept Kip alive through hard times, and for having had the wit to put him into the company of rich people, content to let him tinker and fiddle and make them far richer than they already were. Subjectively, I spent half a lifetime at Fire and Ice. On the calendar it was 4 days. My best pal kept on sleeping, waking up for water ever less frequently. I wondered if his medication didn't do more than just manage pain. Keeping Morley in Nod seemed like a good idea, medically. It was less optimal for those of us who are naturally impatient. I kept thinking that if that was me, I would have been up and running already if somebody didn't fix me so I couldn't. Belinda's doing had to be. She thought it was more important for Morley to heal than it was for us to get out and mix it up with villains. I was thinking stupid and knew it, and was afraid that just sitting watch over Morley would end up with me hating him. Miss T invited herself in occasionally. She did not become less antagonistic. Finally, though, she turned up in a less gloomy mood.
The Gapa says it's time to move him, after his supper and evening cleaning. If you need to make special preparations, tell me now.
I mentioned a lamb and rice dish that I liked, chattered about how I would miss the place that had been home for so long.
You've been here less than a week.
It feels like so much longer.
It did to us. But you're just being a wise ass. I have the Capa's promise that I don't have to put up with any crap.
Uh-oh.
Exactly. Get your stuff ready. I especially want that arsenal under the bed gone before somebody takes legal notice. The books stay home.
I'll see if I can't send up a few that are more interesting.
Now you're being a dick.
I can't help it. It's being cooped up in here.
Now you're going to blame your personality defects on us too?
Ouch. Good thing we still love each other.
Will where you're going be any better?
Ghost of a smile. I restrained myself. Maybe not. My responsibilities wouldn't change. I don't know. Come by sometime and see.
Chapter 25. As promised, Belinda turned up with several burly henchmen after supper. Dee and Crush got Morley back into the rags he was wearing when he showed up. Most of the blood had been scrubbed out. The holes hadn't been mended. Mixed feelings floated around. Dee and Crush were sad to see Morley go, though neither ever exchanged a word with him. Despite all the attitude, Miss T was unhappy too. She turned out the off-duty staff to move Morley and my stuff. "A hearse?" I asked Belinda when I got down to the street. "You're taking him away in a hearse? Where did she even find one? There can't be 10 in the whole city."
Yes. Put on the hat and coat that Joel has for you, then climb up and take the post position.
What are you talking about?
Get up on the seat beside the driver. Try to look like a professional.
A professional what?
That's always the question with you, isn't it? Move. We don't have time for games.
4 men emerged from the back door of the hook shop. They behaved exactly like men sneaking a corpse out of a place where it shouldn't be found. I considered leaving Miss T with a bus on the cheek and Crush with a promise to visit soon, decided to be more mature, walked away from what would have been signature behavior a few years back. My best pal was on that litter, under that black woolen blanket, and several people, including me, were counting on me to get him where he needed to go with no damage added. I hustled over for a costume fitting. Joel was a slim hard case with zombie eyes. He put me into a long black coat and a semi-erect black hat, like a soft cone, nearly a foot tall. With the hat I acquired the long twisted sideburn curls of the Mortician's Guild. The hat had wig elements built in. "Quit grab-assing and get up on the post. And yes, the hat is real. Move." Maybe that was why you never recognize a mortician when he isn't on duty. He wears a disguise at work. The coat cramped my shoulders. It hung to my ankles. The climb to the seat was difficult. The goofy damned hat slipped down into my eyes. I settled to brood and nurture my resentment of the man who had overturned my life by getting himself all stabbed up. If the damned fool could have skipped that, I'd have been snuggling with my favorite redhead. The hearse was not a tall wagon, though the seats were high. The driver, seated to my left, asked, "You healed, Slick?" Lightly I showed him my head knocker. The character with the ratty ginger hair put my heavy equipment in with the client. The man chuckled. He was an old, long drink of water who looked like this might be his true calling. "Client, I like that. Nice stick, too. Good enough for tonight. Won't no resurrection men mess with this mob." 2 mounted men led, followed by Belinda's coach with thugs all over it. Then came another armed rider, the hearse with the mighty Garrett in the post and an armed thug on a running board to either side. One of those was my new pal Joel. Behind the hearse were 2 more horsemen. What might resurrection men be? Body snatchers. It's a problem lately. Somebody is buying youngish corpses. They're in good shape. Where you been, Ace? Out of town, so to speak? Stealing corpses, eh? This was the first I'd heard about that. But there had been no reason for the subject to come up while I was babysitting, and less so before that. Nobody had a reason to keep me posted. My business was to protect Amalgamated from the larceny of its workers and the predations of intellectual pirates. Ditto for the weeder breweries. The hearse jerked. I slammed against the back of my seat. "You got to pay attention, Stretch. You're supposed to be looking out for me and him inside. Him being dead and all, he probably won't come back on you if you nod off and the boogie boys get him. But your old pal Captain Roger, here, he's gonna come back hard, especially if he gets killed." I have problems paying attention. Problems I had not had in Auntie Tinny times. You notice me getting glassy-eyed, give me an elbow in the ribs. I'm hell on wheels when I am paying attention. I sincerely hope I don't get to see you in action, bud. I guessed Roger to be about 60. That meant he had done a turn in the Cantard and had made it home, which meant he remembered guys who couldn't focus. All of us who made it back remember guys who couldn't focus. Their bones decorate the desert down there. The convoy headed south, swung onto Grand, then took that down to my home neighborhood. The streets weren't busy. We wouldn't attract an unusual amount of attention. I strove valiantly to stay alert, for the sake of my best pal and my new friend Captain Roger. It took about half an hour for Roger to decide I was ready for an elbow. I could not turn off my mind. Calm just would not come. Captain Roger's elbow wakened me as the parade neared my place in Macunado Street. I settled into reality with the suspicion that I'd had an epiphany that I could not now recall because I was too dumb to pay attention at the moment of revelation. Since I mostly worried about how Tinny and I were getting along, I guessed that I must have lost a surefire means of dealing. The hearse stopped even with the steps to my stoop. As I dismounted, I noted the neighbors coming out. The door opened. Singe and Dean came outside. Then I felt the reassuring presence of the dead man, awake and deeply interested. "Thank you, Singe, you wonder child." In moments I felt more at home and more relaxed than I had for a long time.
Chapter 26. I would like to say that the depth of Belinda Conti's commitment to Morley was reflected in her willingness to walk into a place where her thoughts could not be kept secret, but her willingness is tempered by a cautious application of technology. Once upon a time, a band of junior sorcerers, amongst other sins, created a mesh able to keep me from seeing their thoughts. I remembered. I considered Belinda more closely. She isn't wearing a wig. I was in the hallway, adding to the congestion. People were everywhere, getting in each other's way. Morley was supposed to go into what had been my office back in antiquity. Singe had cleared it out, then had installed a bed, chairs, and a few other bare-bones amenities. The guys with the litter couldn't figure out how to make the turn through the doorway. This room was smaller than the last, but here I would not be confined to one space. I could roam from room to room and floor to floor, and even go down into the cellar. Wide open spaces compared. And Singe would be more interesting company than the surly folk at Fire and Ice. I backed into Singe's office while the litter boys twisted and shoved and argued. Joel and Belinda barked advice that only added to the tumult.
I wondered what the neighbors thought. You don't often see the morticians make a delivery instead of a pickup. The mesh is next to her scalp, embedded in her natural hair. That's a lot of work gone to waste. If any of these Brunos knew something Belinda wanted kept secret. Too much was happening at once. I couldn't keep an eye on it all. The dead man had to make sure nobody collected souvenirs or hid in a closet. It all worsened when Belinda went from the advisory to the imperial edict stage. Hey, woman. Yes. You. The pretty lady who forgets where she's at. Calm down. And get those extra bodies out of here. Her thugs had gotten Morley into his new quarters and established in his new bed. At which point I realized that we didn't have Crush and Dee Dee to feed and change him anymore. Belinda gave me the hard eye. Then she did remember where she was, what she was doing, and who was there behind her. Out of sight, but maybe not quite out of mind.
Yes, all right. Joel, get the hat and coat from Mr. Garrett. The rest of you, go to Derilia Hall. Wait there. Joel, pay Roger and thank him for the use of the hearse. Warden, tell my coachman to wait at Derilia Hall too.
I said. I hate to give up the coat. I like the look. But I handed it over. See Captain Roger. There's always openings in the mortician trade. I left some tools in the hearse. I'll need them. Would you be so generous as to run them up to the door? Belinda inclined her head slightly. Joel took that as an order. Off he went. The dead man touched me lightly, confirming my suspicions. I asked Belinda, "You spend much time around Joel?"
Not really. Why?
He's got the bug bad. And he smells like the kind of guy who could get weird. Belinda stared like I was a raving lunatic. Like I had accosted her on the street, insisting that she hear my theory about the royal conspiracy to conceal the truth about the mole people who lived in caverns deep under the earth.
You saw something that I missed?
I could be wrong. But the way the man watches you, when you don't know he's watching, I'd say it's close to obsession.
Good to know. I think.
Truly a human shark. You can still get a solid read, not if you ruin it by talking about it. Always a problem me verbalizing my half of our conversations. I'm out of practice. An understatement. After his appearance out front, Dean had fled to the kitchen. He remained in hiding whilst the old homestead swarmed with villains. Not out of timidity, but to avoid being trampled. He emerged now.
Is the rush over?
His great dread had been being told to feed the horde. He was irked enough because Belinda and I were still on scene and special needs Morley was lurking in my old office.
I'll need to do some serious shopping if there are going to be extra mouths to feed.
Make a list. I'll have John Stretch deal with it. None of us should go out. It might not be safe.
Dean shrugged. He did not ask my opinion. He was used to Singe taking charge. I caught on. Danger wasn't relevant. Singe was giving an old man an excuse to let someone else do his running. Dean's years were catching up. I said, "We need to decide how to handle Morley. Belinda, you'll be busy back in the world. Singe and I can, maybe, muddle through an occasional feeding, sponge bath, or linen change, but we aren't qualified to do it regular. We'll need somebody trustworthy. Because he or she would not be live-in. There was nowhere to put anybody."
Taken care of, Garrett. Some of John Stretch's women will handle it.
Singe had everything covered already. There was no need to fuss.
I'm not needed here anymore.
Don't go. We haven't talked about what you found out the last few days.
Nothing, basically.
I waited for an opinion from the dead man. None came. Nothing at all? That's hard to believe.
What you believe is up to you. I'm going, now. I'll check in occasionally. If the lazy dick does wake up, send a message.
She headed for the door, striding manfully. The dead man touched me lightly, just a gentle suggestion that I keep my mouth shut till she was out of the house. Chapter 27. I shut the door. Did a quick mental catalogue of the faces I had seen watching. There were dozens, still, even with the hearse and coach gone. Some were Belinda's bodyguards. None of the others tripped an alarm. None made the dead man wonder either. Mr. Doats's presence will not remain secret. A clever questioner could pluck a detail from this dim witness and that, and assemble an approximation of our situation. And so what? That was me being too sure that I was untouchable inside my own house. My watchful partner brought my overconfidence to my attention. I am ever most effective when my presence and abilities are unknown. One would think that you would work that out for yourself by now. I was about to spin a big argument. He cut me off. How would you deal with me given the knowledge you have? A couple notions popped into mind immediately, and I limit my options by failing to be as ruthless as some. You see, it is all in knowing what you are up against, which is why my people never reveal all there is to know about us, to friend, foe, or sibling. Wisdom with which it was hard to argue. At the moment I was thinking the best way to get him and Morley at the same time would be a swarming attack with firebombs. Light the place up and burn everybody inside. There are people out there able to do that and sleep like a baby afterward. People who would do it for the price of a quality high. Director Railway doesn't always seem like a bad idea. You begin to see. We are most vulnerable to those who know who and what we are. No doubt he meant that on multiple levels. I see. In fact, I see so clearly that I'm sure Belinda made a mistake by moving us here. Let me suggest some possibilities. Perhaps she does not plan to leave Mr. Doates here long. This may last only until it lures someone into range. We're bait? Possibly. She might, in addition, be pleased if I could excise a clue or two from Mr. Doates. About all of the great questions. Who, where, what, why, when, how, and who to. Or anything else that might lead to the cutting of selected throats. I am inclined to agree with Miss Contigue about the potential value of the dig, which will be difficult work. Exploring an unconscious mind, counterintuitively, is much more difficult than rummaging through a mind that is awake, aware, and trying to hide. I'll take your word for it, you being the self-declared expert. In Chapter 28. One custom had not changed since my move to Factory Slide. Singe had kept up the payments on the cold well in the kitchen. Currently, that contained a keg of Weeder Pale Ale, a Poolar Singe favorite. My taste runs to something slightly heavier, but the pale ale was plenty good after several days dry. Singe and I both drew big mugs and backup pitchers before we headed for her office, leaving Dean preparing a meal obviously meant for more people than me, Singe, and Morley. We settled into the wonderful new furniture and began to scheme out how this thing would go. I said, "First thing, I want to catch up on what you did last week, up on the north side." I took a sip of the pale. "Tasty. I saw you. They probably didn't tell you what was going on."
Not a lot, no. I took the job because you asked me to in your note.
"And what?"
You need to use small words and be very clear with us other races.
"And? Was she serious? Or just messing with me?" Most of my friends did. Singe had been an exception. "The tracking job. Where did that take you? What did you find? That might give me some clue about what I need to do to help Morley. I know you found something, because you're you, Poolar Singe, the best there is, and maybe ever was."
Wow! Doesn't that make me feel special?
"Singe, please. I keep forgetting that you're a gelding now." "All right. Miss Contigue asked me to backtrack a team of goats. I did, into Elftown, to a small warehouse where we found some totally ridiculous stuff."
I can't think of a way to say it better. All right. The warehouse was maybe 40 by 60 feet, 2 stories tall, all open inside. The goat cart left the warehouse through a pair of doors, each 3 feet wide and of normal height. They were barred from inside when we got there. Miss Contique's men broke in while Director Railway Specials looked the other way.
Meaning, so just tell me. Pardon me, children, I can make this easier for you both. It is a significant event that Garrett has no knowledge of beyond the fact that Miss Contigue wanted that cart backtracked.
She knew goats are more pungent and persistent than people. Tracing them would be the easiest way to get a handle on our villain. May I get on with my report?
Singe said, no. Too much will be lost if you do it verbally. Vaguely, I heard Singe use language unladylike even for a rat girl, then found myself living a memory, riding behind her eyes from the moment she started the trace. Initially, there were flashes, excised moments, as the dead man skipped me along like a flat stone across a pond. The stills came closer and closer together. Then I was outside the aforementioned double doors. They had been painted recently, a repugnant flat olive with a repulsive odor. Red tops stared the other way while Belinda's thugs broke through. Nobody came to protest the violation. Because the doors were standing open when they arrived, the specials were free to pass through and see if crimes were in progress inside. Nobody was home. Belinda's men and the tin whistles alike produced lights, moved fast. I was fascinated by the differences in how Singe and I sensed the world. For her, visual things were less crisp and weaker on color. Her depth of field was limited. She had trouble seeing clearly things that were more than 50 feet away. But the smells. She lived in a rich, rich world of aroma. Her brother once told me the sense of smell was dramatically more important to rats than to humans and most of the other races. I had believed him, but not to this extent. The smells were overwhelming. And, inside that place, they were not good. They were the smells of corrupting flesh, of chemicals and poisons, smells implanted in rat-kind racial memory. A place that smelled like it was where Singe's ancestors had been created. That thought hit her the instant she stepped inside, before the first lamp shed light. Light only confirmed truths evident to her genius nose. I could be a little parasite swimming around in Singe's recollections, but I could not fully appreciate her experience. My senses acknowledged much different priorities. Once the raiders made light, I saw that the place conformed to the dimensions Singe had reported. There were no internal walls except for the far corner on the left side, where a space 8 feet by 10 was isolated behind partitions 8 feet high. There was nothing overhead but framing for a peaked roof, the roof tree of which was 20 feet above the floor. Ahead were numerous glass vats big enough to hold a human being. Several did. They could have been blown only by an artist with a knack for sorcery. Every thug and tin whistle instantly decided that discovering the provenance of the vats would lead them right to the devil who had created this abomination. The intruders moved deeper into the warehouse. The stench of corruption grew thicker. Scores of dead flies floated in the solution in those vats without closed tops. There were no active flies. They came in the front door but did not make it all the way to the rotting flesh. That did come from dead people. A 20-foot-long, massive oak workbench stood against the back wall. It boasted 3 corpses in the process of disassembly. Extra parts lay scattered about. At the right-hand end of the bench sat the biggest vat in the place, only as tall as the table but 3 feet wide and 6 feet long. Scrap pieces could be swept off into a solution that had to be something ferocious, though becoming slightly diluted. There were chunks of inadequately consumed big bones in there. Singe had shut down all but the observer part of her mind. She handled the horror better than I would have, certainly better than Belinda's soldiers and the tin whistles did. Several left and would not come back. Others did return but absent their latest several meals. Only the Windwalker, furious tide of light, seemed unaffected. She moved through the place slowly, examining everything. Experiencing all that through Singe's nose was no joy, though to the primal rats from which she descended, stinky meat had meant food. Singe paid little attention to the Windwalker.
I was unable to watch the lethal waif saunter about, surrounded by a 10-foot come-no-closer spell. Singe was interested only in the manufactory of horror. That was what she had found, a place where monsters were made from pieces of dead people. It might be the foulest necromantic den Tunfair had turned up in centuries. I felt frustrated. She didn't just pay no attention to the Windwalker, she didn't poke where I would have poked, though she did better than I might have, really. I would have focused on the Windwalker. She was remarkable in so many ways, including by being off the hill, one of Tunfair's top sorcerers. And, once upon a time, she had made it plain that she was inclined to stand very close to a certain professional investigator. Garrett, nothing like a hammer between the eyes to make you concentrate. Singe left the others for the walled-off section. It had a makeshift door that could be latched from either side. It was ajar. She pushed it open.
Can someone bring a light?
One arrived quickly. Singe and the Lightbringer entered the room. The Windwalker followed. She did something mystic to create a better light. The space was a child's room. Dirty clothes were scattered everywhere. An unmade bed was occupied by a large, tattered, stuffed bear. Clutter was everywhere. It included moldy remnants of unfinished meals. The tin whistle with the lantern observed. Somebody likes stuffed critters. There had to be 15 of those, mostly large. The clothing was girl stuff, in what seemed to be a variety of adolescent sizes. Singe never actively examined those. Singe sniffed. The Windwalker began an intense visual examination. The tin whistle asked. He kept a kid prisoner? Jumping to the obvious conclusion. We need to get this, guys.
Would you step outside, officer? Watch from the doorway if you like. Our first task will be to find out who lived here.
Furious Tide of Light said. She let Singe stay. Singe was the miracle girl. The miracle girl didn't pay attention to what the Windwalker was doing. Near as I could figure, the woman was doing the same as Singe, only sniffing for magic. And that was that. Furious Tide of Light decided that the place ought to be evacuated and cordoned off. A guard would be posted and no one would be allowed in except at Prince Rupert's direction. Singe learned what she could but had to leave with everyone else. She reported to Belinda, then came home. Nothing more had been heard. Amongst the things I found while Miss Contigue was with us was an angry recollection of being asked to drop her private investigation by the Crown Prince. Chapter 29. I said, that was amazing stuff. But what does it have to do with Morley? For that connection you must be patient. I have begun exploration, but the work goes like trying to fell a tree by gnawing through the trunk. Singe rubbed her temples. That was no fun. I hope that is the last time we will go over it. I have it memorized. Now, I can relive it whenever I want. I will not trouble you again. I started asking questions. I have that habit.
You saw what I saw. You have every scrap of information I did. I need to see my brother before I get too giddy.
Speaking of John Stretch, some of his people were outside the henhouse with you. What was that all about?
Belinda planned to use them somehow, and Humility had them there to look out for me too. Belinda changed her mind and paid them off.
After she got warned off. I might want to talk to her about that. No, she would wonder how you knew, then she would conclude that her hairnet is not infallible. Singe got up.
Shut the door behind me. I won't be long.
With bored. She wasn't. I was still standing there, enjoying a mind-sharing experience with the dead man, cataloging faces in the street. I watched Singe approach with 2 brawny rat women. Nothing remarkable out there. One watcher from Miss Contigue's enterprise whose sole task is to see who else is watching.
That's it? There's nobody from the Alcar?
I opened up for Singe.
Does the woman up the street still maintain a watch outpost?
Get with the times. It's not the watch anymore, it's the civil guard these days.
And the answer to the question?
The woman up the street?
Mrs. Cardonlos? Singe? Is Mrs. Cardonlos still a stringer for the Red Tops?
Yes, but since you have been gone, she does not have a regular team staying there. She rents rooms for real now. Let me get these two started on Mr. Doats's.
The burly, badly dressed rat women looked at Singe like she was a goddess. They'd never seen a rat person in a conversation of equals with a human, and Singe was female. One eyed me like she thought there was something wrong with me. I followed but stayed in the hallway while Singe explained the job. The rat women had done this kind of work before. They had no trouble understanding. Cued by the dead man, Dean brought a tray with food for the help as well as Morley. Before he went back to the kitchen, Dean offered a wan smile.
The excitement is back.
Not really. We were going to sit here and do every bit of the nothing we had done at Fire and Ice. Everything else would be in the hands of others, professionals, and criminals. A warn off by the gods themselves would not keep Belinda from digging. I hoped no one on the law and order side pushed her. She was crazy enough to push back. Dean went to bed before the rat women finished. I helped Singe clean up, then we resumed gossiping and honoring Weeder's beer. It didn't take much of the latter to slow me down. I meant to quiz Singe on how I could handle Tinny, but I stayed sober enough to realize that was stupid. Singe was barely an adult, she wasn't human, and Tinny was unique, possibly unfathomable by Tinny Tate herself. Eventually I dragged myself upstairs. My room was the way I had left it, except that somebody had cleaned it and had made up the bed with fresh linens. Singe was altogether too efficient, and was, probably, resenting my intrusion into her quiet, orderly world. Chapter 30. There were 4 sleeping rooms on the second floor of my house. The biggest, stretching across the front, was mine. Dean's room spanned the house and back, except for a storage closet and space taken by the stairs. Singe occupied the largest of the remaining rooms, which sat on the west side of the central hallway. In area, it almost matched Dean's. The 4th room, our guest room, contained a seldom-used bed and lots of stuff that should have been thrown away. We used to hide somebody there once in a while. There were 2 real glazed windows in my room. They were not barred because there was no easy way for villains to get at them. Both looked down on Makunato Street. The one to the east might as well have not existed. I've never opened it and seldom looked out it. The other, beside the head of my bed, had seen some action. Once upon a time I would stare out it while I ruminated. Tonight, as always in warm weather, it was open a few inches so cool night air could get inside. I liked sleeping in a cool room. I had the opportunity that night. The temperature plummeted after sundown. At one point, I wakened and added a light blanket to the sheet that had been adequate earlier. Later, I wakened again and used the chamber pot, setting some beer free. Then I wakened a 3rd time, needing a heavier cover and with my bladder ready to explode. The sky had been overcast during the afternoon and evening. That had cleared. The light of an unseen moon splashed the rooftops and turned them into a weird fairy landscape. My aim was less than perfect. I missed the pot completely to start. Disgusting. I gobbled something incoherent meant to be an appeal to the dead man. No telling what I thought he could do. I got no response anyway. Then I saw the ghost. The specter drifted down out of the night and came toward my window like a vampire in a dream. But vampires don't really fly, I reminded myself. They just jump really far. Vampires can leap for altitude or distance, but they don't flit like bats. Nor do they turn into bats, much as they might want the prey community to think they do. I calmed myself, completed my business, formulated a plan for cleaning up before Singe or Dean discovered the evidence. Then I checked the window and nearly panicked. The flying woman was still there, hair and clothing streaming in the breeze. Her dress was something light and white that, in moonlight, made me think of fashionable grave wear, and reminded me of what I had seen vampire brides wearing in the nests in the adventure where I first butted heads with Tinny Tate. My ears kicked in. I heard my name. Then my brain shed sleep enough to put it all together. That was the Windwalker, furious tide of light. And she wanted in. So, naturally, I remembered that vampires, like most evils, have to be invited in the first time. And I recalled my reaction to this woman last time our paths crossed. She didn't look like she had seduction in mind. She looked troubled. I raised the window as high as it would go, which was not much. I turned up my bedside lamp. The Windwalker, being a wisp of a woman, drifted through the narrow opening. I settled on the edge of my bed, waited, hoping she would feel no need to pace over there by the chamber pot. She glanced around, shoved my dirty clothes off the only chair, settled. She turned the lamp back down.
A watcher might wonder.
Assuming he failed to notice a flying woman in her nightgown sliding in the window. You didn't ride anything this time.
A broomstick isn't necessary.
She noted my interest in her apparel.
The king held a ball at Summer Hall. I was invited. He has aspirations.
She spoke softly. So, not a nightgown. I see. I matched her soft voice. Singe would invite herself to join us if she heard us talking. And now you're here.
Yes, it was on the way.
Only by the most circuitous route.
I'm frightened. Strange things are happening. They're outside my control. I don't deal well with that sort of circumstance.
She spoke like she wanted me to understand, not like she wanted to be comforted, which was how my head worked when she was around.
Otherwise, I'm not sure what my problem is. Actually, I just know that one is shaping up. Besides being able to stroll through the air, I'm strongly intuitive, but randomly. I can't control it and don't dare rely on it. Right now I intuit that something abidingly dark is afoot. Powerful people are trying to cover it up. I can't understand why.
I'm lost, but I'm listening.
You wouldn't be one of those yourself, would you?
She seemed genuinely confused. What do you mean? Last time I was involved in weird goings-on involving secret labs and illegal experiments. Your daughter and her friends were in the middle of it. You and your father went balls to the wall to make sure they didn't get eaten alive for their foolishness.
Kevins isn't involved this time. I don't think any of the faction kids are.
Kevin's gang of misfit genius friends called themselves the faction. How come it sounds like you're trying to convince yourself?
I admit it. Kevins does lie to me when I see her, which is hardly ever anymore. She has her own place. I don't think she learned much last time, and I'm scared that some of her other friends might be involved, or might know who is, and Kevins wouldn't say.
She's not living with you. Teen solidarity. But involved in what? Teen solidarity usually collapses in the face of real consequences.
Exactly. I don't think Kevins is involved.
She was waffling based on wishful thinking.
But she might be close to someone who is. I don't want to press her. Our relationship is complicated and fragile.
I know. But how come you're here?
Let me tell you about my week.
Which she did, wasting few words.
When the business on the edge of Elftown broke, Prince Rupert asked me to investigate. That ended after we found the warehouse where somebody was using parts from dead bodies to assemble custom zombies. I thought she would. She got warned off before I did.
For what?
What did she tell you about that hellhole?
Singe told me.
I sketched Singe's report.
The girl who stayed in that room and slept with that stuffed bear was no captive. Furious Tide of Light said.
Singe was sure the room's inmate had been a girl too. Singe said she was young.
In terms of socialization, possibly. But no child would have the strength and knowledge to do what she was doing.
I ruminated briefly, then said, an old woman, a goat cart, something that behaved like and might have been a giant slug. 2 dead men, cut down by sorcery.
Who have vanished. I was kept away from them. The old woman vanished too. Cart and goats have gone the way of the dead men's, and nothing has happened since.
I guessed, because I hadn't even been fed what the mushrooms get. But you're worried about Kevins. You've developed some disturbing suspicions.
Nothing, not really. I have some fears. I've been unable to support them, which is a good thing. I am intuitively convinced that we're dealing with someone young, female, powerful, rogue, and entirely amoral, though.
I see. But back to basics. How come you're here? What do you want from me? I was determined to make a fully adult effort to remain faithful to the redhead in my life.
I want to hire you, I think. I remember you from before.
The lighting was feeble, but it was enough to reveal her embarrassment. I'm taken. Juan's smile, without comment, in a manner that said exactly what she was thinking. My defenses were male defenses. And she did have a power besides intuition and flight. She could excite the statue of a dead general if she chose to turn it on. I had seen her reduce a crowd of skilled tradesmen to drooling idiots with no conscious effort. But tonight she was totally serious. I wished I knew her situation better. She said she was estranged from her father and daughter. How much so? Her father had run every detail of her life, back when, despite her being one of the most powerful sorcerers in the kingdom. She had not been long on social skills. I couldn't imagine yesterday's furious tide of light surviving on her own. I shifted the subject. What about the other faction girls? I don't recall them that well. Could one of them be our resurrection man?
I only knew the ones that came to our house. They were all odd. There were more than I saw. Kids came and went. Some never really belonged to the clique.
And some were cross-dressers, including Keevans.
Including Keevan.
Any of those kids connected to the royal family? She shrugged, not surprised. She had considered the question.
That too. Not that I know of.
What's the mood on the hill? She frowned. Maybe she hadn't thought about that. This will reflect on all of you. You want to police yourselves. This makes it look like you need outside help. The villain fled to the hill twice. I had to give her that. The monster may have done that as misdirection. What are your neighbors saying?
No, toward the hill. I don't know. I don't have much to do with them. I'm not comfortable with the ways they think.
The mental work behind the mad laboratory only exaggerated the attitudes of most hill folk. Furious Tide of Light was the most sane and least dangerous of any I'd ever met. All right. Let's lay it out. Straight up honest. What do you want?
I don't want to be shut out. I guess Prince Rupert doesn't trust me after the thing with the giant bugs.
Understandable. That involved another secret lab.
I know. I see why he might think what he's thinking. That doesn't change what I feel. I want you to help find out what's really going on.
All right. You're worried about your daughter. But why not stand back and let the professionals do their job? She did not offer an answer. So, you're not just worried. You want to be a step ahead so you can cover for her again. Even if she's behind the ugliest criminal incident we've seen in years.
Yes, sort of.
Then Prince Rupert did the right thing when he shut you out. She's my baby, Garrett. I can't just let her.
And you can't keep covering. If she can't get a handle on the concept of consequences, she'll just keep getting into trouble. You saw the inside of that warehouse, and 6 people died in 2 days. You can't make excuses and cover up something like that.
She shrugged. She was near the point where many women turn on the waterworks. She refrained. Now, Chapter 30. A tree fell in the wilderness inside my head. Lucky me, I was there to hear the thud. You've been thinking about this since you saw that stuffed bear.
Your rat girlfriend made me think you were more involved than you said.
She admitted.
Singe was working for Belinda Contake. She's an independent operator. I don't live here anymore. Which you know, because you checked up.
She nodded.
Then you know my real part in everything. You're really babysitting your friend. Don't you want to know who did it?
I nodded. I nodded again. But I've gotten patient in my old age. I won't do anything till Morley is ready. If the Guard or the Syndicate haven't dealt with it by then, we'll see what we can do. It seems odd for you to be pushing revenge when you're afraid your daughter might be involved.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared and out of my depth. You're the only one I know who does what you do.
I believed her, including that she would hire me when I might head straight for the kid she wanted to protect. She had been sheltered her whole life. So you figure on defying the prince for Kaven's sake, even though the best thing now would be to let everything take its course.
I don't know what I'm doing. I never learned how. All I've ever had to do is be the Windwalker, Furious Tide of Light. I can do that. I can scatter an enemy regiment. I can bring down a castle. But I never learned how to raise a daughter. I never dealt with the quotidian world. Barate handled that so I could focus on being a prodigy.
I wanted to ask about her father but suspected that he would be an unwelcome subject. Let's back up to when you got the idea that Cavens or the faction might be involved. I would be covering ground already trodden, but she seemed inclined to lurk in the shadow of the truth now.
In that warehouse, in that room. That stuffed animal belonged to Cavens, though I haven't seen it for years.
You're sure? I reminded myself that the simplest and most obvious explanation is usually the right one.
There were other things that reminded me of the faction. Rupert got the same feeling.
So she had seen the prince at her party. You need to talk to Cavens. Straight up, woman to woman, no drama. Then see Rupert again. Be square with him. He'll be square with you if he's really a friend. You might even talk it over with Barate. You're operating on emotion right now, mostly on fear. You need good information, and you need to decide where you stand on the crime itself, personalities aside.
I hoped you could gather the information.
She wasn't hearing me. Don't take the dark side in this. It will just destroy you. Her jaw tightened. She was going to get stubborn. Talk to those people. You have to realize that they'll go hard after whoever created that lab. The hill is probably a turned-up ant's nest. Nasty people are going to start poking haystacks and turning over rocks. Her expression told me that she hadn't really considered the reaction of her own class. Those people take a dim and lethal view of rogue sorcery.
You're sure you won't help me?
I can't. Not how you want. Not however much I would like to. I have to stay here, with my friend. That goes to the bedrock of who I am. I'm here even though it could mean the end of my relationship with a woman who... She cut me off. She didn't need to hear that.
All right. I won't put you in harm's way. I'll do the digging and use you as a sounding board. You just tell me what to do and how to do it.
Startled, I realized that we were not alone. I'd caught the ghost of a sense of amusement from down below. I've told you the first thing, the most important thing. Talk to people. An honest exchange could save us all a ton of trouble. She didn't like that idea. If this is going to happen, you have to put aside your quirks. You have to gut it up and go face to face. Promise me you'll see Rupert, Barate, and Cavens if you can, tomorrow. I felt a ghostly touch of approval. This would be interesting. I could play dead man in the web, directing the hoofwork while I crocheted doilies. All right, I can't go out, but I can help. You ready to put money into this?
As much as it takes.
Curb the emotion. Emotion won't solve anything. Besides seeing the prince, Barate, and Cavens, here's what I need you to do. The intensity with which she listened was embarrassing.
Chapter 33. I was groggy from lack of sleep when I toddled down for breakfast. I missed a step, lost my balance, and might have busted something if my flailing right hand had not snagged the rail on the left side of the stair. I ended up on my belly, shaking, aching in one bruised knee, and embarrassed when Singe appeared at the foot of the stair. Gravity ambush. I think I'm good, though I might end up wearing a peg leg. I was starting to hurt where I banged my left hip on the edge of a step. Let's see if I can make it the rest of the way without killing myself. I turned loose of the rail.
You all right? What happened? If you are going to kill yourself, don't do it here. I'm too weak and Dean is too feeble to shift a corpse.
I sensed amusement from old Butterbutt. Dean had come out to investigate.
We could cut him up into smaller pieces.
That would make a mess, but we could infiltrate him into the resurrection scheme that's got everybody excited.
Everybody? I made it down without further mishap.
Tea's ready. Sausages and rolls are warming.
He slipped back into the kitchen.
Good thing you weren't carrying your pot when you did that.
Yeah, good thing. But why would I be? Because Dean is having trouble getting up and down. He needs to keep both hands on the rails. Got it. Now tell me about everybody being excited.
The news about the murders in the resurrection lab got out.
Not surprising. Too many people knew, which I mentioned.
You're right. I hear the public reaction has been strong. Maybe that's because they've gotten spoiled. shaded by the civil guard and the unpublished committee. Unorganized crime isn't a commonplace anymore. Something like this spooks people. They want it fixed. Fast.
We moved into the kitchen. Dean was just settling my breakfast onto the massive little table. He placed a bowl of stewed apples opposite me, Singe's favorite food. My hip bone barked when I sat down. I asked, "How is Morley?" I'd drop in as soon as my belly was full.
Unchanged, but healing. Doing well physically. Something inside doesn't want to come back, so I'm told.
But he did try, early on, at the other place. I had a momentary notion about him getting lost in fairy, a willing captive of illusion.
And then he decided not to try anymore. Of course, he says it might take a long time. It's some of the finest, most delicate work he's ever done. What do you think of the roles?
Is he working on it? I like them. Spicy. Sweeter than I'm used to.
They're from a specialty bakery I found in Foynton Lane. Looks like you're done. Get on with your chores. You slept in, so you've only got an hour before the meeting. We talked about this. You need to make up your room, deal with your pot, and gather your dirty clothing so it can be laundered. Then you have to deal with the trash. The dustman's wagon will come through the alley this afternoon.
What chores? What meeting? Changes. They come in a blink of the eye these days. My eyes must have been the size of saucers. I got the sense that old Bones would have busted out laughing if he wasn't so far gone he no longer exercised a respiratory function. Respiratory thing? Just my quality to then like the new regime in Tun Fair as a whole, writ small. What meeting? I asked again, maybe a little too plaintively.
I sent for some people who can help the Windwalker.
I had not breathed a word about my night visitor.
You'll have to acquaint them with the facts of the situation, and you'll need to make sure they understand possible ramifications if they do get involved.
All right, you. What have you done with Pular Singe? And what are you talking about? But if I wanted my life all planned and managed, I could have just stayed on factory slides. Oh my! What did I just say?
I just told you. I am not running your life. I'm making it move more efficiently. This meeting had to happen sooner or later. You would have gone at it piecemeal, catch as catch can.
Exactly what I mean. Running children, enough! Garrett, please resist becoming all macho male excited because someone is thoughtful enough to ease your burdens. He put some power behind that. It was a command. Pour yourself a fresh mug, then join me for a moment before you start your chores. This was not going to be a good day. I resented every minute already. I'm not self-employed because I care about efficiency. I'm interested in not having to do more than it takes to get by, which was why I moved out of my mother's house as soon as I could. Was that why she always favored Mikey? Could be, come to think. Chapter 34. Tell me something that makes sense, I told the dead man as I settled facing him. Shivering, my teacup sent up clouds of steam. Life and afterlife have become more structured. Only you seem to consider that a bad thing. The world hasn't changed that much, has it? Everybody still wants to unload on me. He was amused. He did not argue. I heard my mother telling me I had a wonderful mind. Why couldn't I just try to live up to my potential? The amusement deepened, still absent comment. Did you find anything interesting in the Windwalker's mind? She believes you would make an excellent husband. What? There was a hit from the blind side. I know. If she can delude herself that deeply in a personal matter, how can we possibly credit anything else inside her scrambled brain? That was not what my expletive meant. Are you making up for time lost? No. We have no time for amusements. You have chores that need doing. Pay attention. Feel sorry for yourself later. The Windwalker was, overall, as honest as she could be. She is frantic about her daughter. She is in the cleft stick of a quandary that no parent should have to face. Her only child may be a monster in human guise. I could see the quandary. It might take a stronger spirit than mine to roll over on my own family, though that would save the lives of strangers. You have done the equivalent. You have the strength to champion the right. The Windwalker's deepest fear is that her daughter may not only be a villain, she may have created corpses for her experiments. What could I say to that? Young, undamaged corpses would be at a premium. Many lost souls roam the byways of this city and are unlikely to be missed. Mr. Dotes could have stumbled onto the harvesting in progress. Nothing I have found in his mind rules that out. Look, I remember that kid. Her head was messed up because of her family situation, but she wasn't homicidal. She was creative. Weird creative, like Kip, not deadly weird. You are correct to that point. But people can change. When they do, it is usually for the worse. I take it you haven't had much luck with Morley. Very little. He is remarkably closed. If he were an animal, I might think he was hibernating. Inasmuch as he is intelligent, I have to believe that something was done to keep him untouchable. He might never come back. He will be back, I promise. As the challenge grows bigger, I become more determined. I will build him a path of escape. Henceforth, do not be startled if I re-examine every second of your recollections of your time together before you came here. Clever Garrett got it in one. Morley had started to wake up. Then he had gone away. Belinda's healer. We need to find him. Yes, though I was thinking about what tried to get in through the window. Maybe he just decided to dig a hole and pull it in after him. That would not be in character. Enough. Do your chores. I have a visitor arriving momentarily. She is not comfortable in your presence. That had to be his pet priestess, Penny Dreadful. He had taken Penny under his intellectual wing when she was little more than a toddler. He had mentored her ever since. I considered lying back in the shadows at the foot of the stairs just to get a look, but thought better of it. I was upstairs being domestic when Penny arrived.